and welcome to the WAN Show, guys. The weekly show that tells you everything you need to know about technology in 3 hours or more, or less.
3 hours?
We've done that.
We have.
Almost. We've done like 2.5, so I couldn't even say 2 hours or less.
It's usually 2 hours or less.
It's usually 2 hours or less, but today's show I think is going to be a little bit on the shorter side, but we've still got a lot of information to pack in there for you. So number one is our special guest, the one, the only... I was making points, but there aren't two of them. George Makris from Corsair will be joining us. So for those of you who don't know who Corsair George is, number one, shame on you, because true PC enthusiasts who appreciate the work that he's done over the years should know who he is. He's the guy behind the Corsair 800D. So that was Corsair's first enthusiast class computer gaming case, and he's actually been the mastermind behind a lot of the other innovations that they've brought to the case market since then. So we're really excited to talk to him. And then what else we got for the show today?
Quantum Minecraft from Google, which is just awesome.
Where's my
and
pickaxe?
Ridiculous.
Yes!
It's not a quantum pickaxe, though.
It could be a quantum
Unless I look away and look back, and then it's like a sword.
Yes, see? How do you know that?
But
try it.
That was not planned. That was awesome. Okay, 290X performance. We're going to talk about that. I think we're probably going to have a Twitter blitz based around that,
Yeah,
too.
we got to talk 290X.
Yep, and then Infinity Ward saying that COD players are not hardcore gamers, and maybe not even gamers at all.
Okay, see, every time you say this, I'm going to have to start talking about it, because
it's amazing. Also, Apple's patent for capacitive touchscreens might actually go through, which is like...
it's been upheld for now.
Yeah.
Which might be a big problem. If your name isn't Nokia, Microsoft, or HTC. So more on that in a moment. Like, we could be looking at basically any device that is a Galaxy S4 or similar could be just not for sale, at least not in the
US.
Yeah, could be a big problem. So without further ado, guys, intro time. Alright guys, so we've got a couple sponsors for the show this week. Number one is Squarespace. Squarespace is the easy way to create a professional looking website for yourself, your business, or whatever else you might want to create a website for. And Hotspot Shield, you can get, for Squarespace, you can get 10% off on new accounts through the month of October. You're going to squarespace.com/Linus and using the code Linus10. And then Hotspot Shield, powered by Anchor Free. You can get 20% off elite prices with offer code Linus. You can sign up at bit.ly/hsshare. And Hotspot Shield is an easy-to-use VPN solution. So that allows you to get around regional restrictions on services like Netflix, or get around things like blanket censorship in countries where that kind of thing is a problem. You want to access YouTube, you're in China, Hotspot Shield could be the right solution for you.
If you can get Hotspot Shield.
You can get Hotspot Shield in China. So it's an example. I actually don't know if specifically Hotspot Shield works in China, because there's all kinds of crazy voodoo magic that goes on.
Well, it probably
with the
works. You
over
probably
there.
just have to try and get it, which I think
You'd have to figure it out. We get some viewership out of China somehow. It's like usually like single-digit views, so I have no idea how exactly it happens, but it's always kind of funny to me. All right, so kicking things off, welcome to the show. Google, okay, you know what? I'm going to let you field this one. Quantum computing comes to Minecraft.
So there's a quote. I'm actually going to read this directly.
I'm just going to help.
Google's quantum AI team quoted saying, "Where will the future of quantum computer scientists come from? Our best guess, Minecraft." So in response to this, they have released a quantum module for Minecraft. It's not really actually quantum, but it's representing different parts of quantum ideas. So quantum entanglement, quantum superposition, and observer dependency. There's a video that we can watch, which I think we really should watch, that shows them showing off QCraft, which is their little module for it. So if we jump into I don't think that's the right one.
Way to go.
Give me a second.
All right, so you're going to go ahead and do that. So
I'm going to go find it.
So basically what that means is Minecraft is already basically like a particle simulator, so to speak. So it's got its own physical rules for the way that things behave within the game. So what this will do is it'll allow you to apply quantum rules to the objects that already exist within Minecraft using this module. So once you fire up the link, we will be able to actually show something.
I've got stuff, like there's, but it's not the video that I actually wanted.
Okay, well, at any rate, guys, what we're going to do is we are going to link the video in the WAN show doc. That always goes up on the Linus Tech Tips forum after the show. So, guys, do definitely check it out. But basically what it's designed to do is let players experiment with quantum behaviors inside Minecraft's world with new blocks that exhibit these quantum properties that you wouldn't normally observe with something like a pickaxe or a piece of stone or a piece of the kinds of objects that we can already find within the Minecraft world. So it's... is Minecraft an educational tool now?
It kind of...
It's funny because I think it was only 2 weeks ago that Minecraft was causing
violence. People to start killing people and stuff. I can't find the video, but essentially the kind of stuff that happens is like, say he walks up to this stone wall and he's like, okay, well, how the heck do I get through this? He looks in a box. There's something you can light wood on fire with. And he looks at the wall and then he looks away and looks around for a little bit and looks back. And now they're wooden blocks. And he's like, oh, light them on fire. Because they changed. Because he looked away and then looked back. And there's a lot of this weird dependency stuff. And one thing, to be able to actually get through the puzzle, he just kind of spun in circles. Because the whole room was just morphing around him as he spun in circles, and then it like created a hole, and then he jumped down the hole, and then when he jumped down the hole and looked up, the roof was completely different than what he came through, and like everything's just changing as you go through the level without you actually interacting with it at all, and that's a huge part about it. And then there's going to be the blocks in the game so that you can create these things. So it's not just Google making these courses for people, you can create your own, and that's the perfect community to give it to.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there's enough guys there that are going to go hardcore geeking out over something like this and build what are going to be effectively educational tools about a concept that most people have very little grasp on whatsoever. And now we could be looking at 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds picking up Minecraft and getting a better understanding of quantum mechanics than their parents have.
Just ridiculous.
So
it's pretty awesome, and like... Oh,
quantum mechanics, sorry, quantum physics.
Yeah, it's okay. The different things that I'm really excited for is the people messing with it, like we just talked about, because we've seen people in Minecraft make computers and like make calculators using blocks, which is insane. So if you take those same people and give them blocks with quantum properties, I'm actually pretty stoked to see what I might have to launch up Minecraft again.
Yeah, no, this is really cool. So topic number 2, this is an article from IGN. This is I don't know if this is hilarious or pathetic, but in Brazil, the PlayStation 4 will cost over $1,800. So to be clear, we're not talking like Brazilian, rupees or whatever they use there.
It's not rupees.
I know it isn't rupees. But the point is that we're talking over 1,800 equivalent US dollars. So never even mind the difference in earning potential there. Never even mind all those other factors. You, as an American, going down there with US dollars and walking into a store to buy a PlayStation 4, you would be expected to fork over $1,800.
In comparison, so that translated to the actual local currency is about $3,999. The Xbox One is going to come in at $2,199, which is a difference of $1,800. This isn't American dollars right now that we're dealing with, but if you look at that scale, the one costs $4,000, the other one costs $2,199. That's a difference of almost the cost of the Xbox.
So you could literally buy two Xboxes.
Almost, pretty close. Like, that's insane.
So it's being blamed on import tariffs and duties and taxes and all of those kinds of fees that are normally Brazil is pretty brutal for this. Yeah. They do have very, very massive duties on anything that's being imported, and it's being blamed on that. But you look at what the launch price was for PS3. And I don't think that their tax laws have changed that dramatically. What was the PS3 launch price?
PS3 launch price, PS3 was launched there late. It was launched in 2010, I believe, and I think the actual North American launch was 2006.
Okay.
So you have to factor in, like, I know the North American launch was really expensive too, but yeah, so the PS3 launch in 2010 was $1,999 local dollars, or $924.69 American.
Okay, so now we're looking at, well, okay, it's, twice as fast, therefore twice as, I don't know what the logic here is. And so you look at that, and then you also look at what Microsoft is launching the Xbox One at, so just over $1,000 US, and you gotta wonder, given that Xbox One comes with a Kinect, and Sony has spent a fair bit of time poking at them about how they're more expensive. What was the justification for this being so expensive in Brazil?
It's kind of obscene, and I'm sure if I lived in Brazil, I'd be kind of pissed. Because that's just ridiculous. Like, there's no way I could afford that. That's insane.
It's one of those things where I really feel like Brazil does this to themselves in a big way. Like, I mean, okay, so back to my whole working at a computer retailer. Okay, this is a thing. North American retailers, and I'm not going to name any names, but I know who does it. North American retailers buying literally, like, shipping containers of CPUs and then dropping them off at a port, having someone come get them and give them money, and then get them somehow into Brazil, and that's it. So much of the computer hardware that gets sold in Brazil is gray market, from people just smuggling in, like,
because the import taxes are so high.
Because they're so high, and then the retailers in other territories love it, because as far as Intel ever knows, like on paper, that product is being sold within the market that they think it's being sold at, and that retailer is moving tremendous volume. Good job. Here's a volume incentive. Mm-hmm. So they can just sell the processors at cost and collect volume incentives. That's how the whole gray market thing works, guys. So sometimes the way gray market works is there will be an actual lower cost in a given territory. So for example, those online game key sales sites that are popping up all over the place, where they're buying like Estonian game keys and then reselling them outside of that territory. Not Russia. Technically illegal, but definitely not what I would consider to be a sustainable business model. I can't imagine that EA and Valve and whoever else are going to let this go on forever. So that is one way of gray marketing, and then the other way is manipulating and basically smuggling to get around import taxes. I know it can be a bit of an issue with Russia as well. I was talking to one major manufacturer a couple of months ago that was basically said, yeah, we can't ship anything into Russia. We can't even get reviews done there. It's just not a thing. Like,
wow.
What?
That's weird.
So it really depends on the product category. It depends on the manufacturer, what kind of, deals they have in order to get product into countries. But it's not as simple. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I think other countries around the world look at places like the US and go, everything's so cheap there and everything's available there. And part of it is that they do make it easier in a lot of ways. Anyone can just sell something, bring stuff in, as long as it doesn't require FDA approval or some kind of a UL certification for things like electronics, or FCC certification. The processes are pretty well documented, and it's pretty much under control, and it's not that hard to get stuff in there. I talked to another hardware manufacturer about the Brazil thing, and they said basically the only solution for them was to build manufacturing facilities in Brazil. And then they were able to completely crush the competition because they didn't have to deal
import.
with it. It was actually cheaper to just build manufacturing there, which is maybe Brazil's agenda. But if they expect someone like Sony to just build like a PlayStation 4 manufacturing plant in Brazil, I mean, come on. Not everyone's going to do that, Brazil. So expect people to try and circumvent your whole deal there. All right, so why don't we take a Twitter blitz, guys? Let's just do a general Q&A Twitter blitz. Hit us up. Let us know if you have any questions. We're going to go through those, and then we've got one more topic, and then around 5 o'clock our time, we're going to be joined by George from Corsair. So you want to launch into our next topic here?
Just before we launch the next topic, for the Twitter blitz, if you're from Brazil, what other kind of stuff do you see this on? I know I took like a short ghetto vacation in Mexico. and I was talking to one of the guys I met there just about different
You
electronics.
know, that's not really very nice. Is it a ghetto vacation because it was in Mexico?
No, it was a ghetto vacation because I spent no money on it.
Ah, okay.
Lived like I was poor the whole time.
Ah, okay.
But it was fun. I didn't like eat very well.
I was like, wow, we don't see things like that on this show. That's terrible.
No. I meant ghetto vacation because it was super cheap and I didn't get that many frills with it.
Okay.
But yeah, I was talking to a guy down there about different electronics that were there, and he's talking about how like he had a nice phone, like none of his friends had a nice phone, because he's like, I'm the phone enthusiast in the group, meaning I own a nice phone. I was like, wow, that's different. Everyone I know has a super nice phone at home.
Yep.
Like everybody.
It's just cheaper.
Yeah, and I don't remember what it was, but I asked him how much it was, and then I converted it, and it's just insane.
And for all the whining and complaining that folks do about carrier contracts and subsidies,
oh my God.
I mean, do you have any idea how much of a difference that's made for you over the years in terms of the upfront cost of your hardware?
Yeah.
Can I have that drink?
Yep. I didn't see it at first. It kind of blended in with
NCIX gave me $10 to drink from this water bottle on the show.
I don't believe you. Or did they as a joke? No, they didn't. No. That would have been pretty funny, actually.
No, that didn't happen. I just happened to own an NCIX water bottle.
Because they gave you one.
Because I worked there for years.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. Anyways, the new topic was the Apple event and new Tech Quickie format.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Apple event first. The Tech Quickie format isn't really news. So Apple had about an 80-minute event earlier this week where they actually talked about some pretty cool stuff. So the new iPad Air, iPad Air, thinner than before, lighter than before.
I wonder when they're going to run out of reusable names.
The same phone hardware in a much larger form factor as before.
iPad
AirPod. That'd be great. iPod AirPad. Anyway, so the iPad Air is out. It's only £1, so it's significantly lighter than the previous generation model. It's still Retina. It uses the same A7 chip that we found in the latest iPhone 5S. So they have, by the look of things, done away with having a higher tier of hardware in iPad versus iPhone. I guess there's just no point anymore. And other than that, I don't think there was really much to say about that. There's new cases available in a variety of colors, and now, rather than only magical cases that go just on the front, there are now magical cases that wrap all the way around your thin and light iPad to make it exactly the same weight and size as your previous generation iPad. I don't know that it's actually exactly the same weight and size, and if you're anything like me, you probably already had a case on your last generation iPad, so it's still a savings. But I just kind of get a kick out of that.
Once you drop your keys on it.
All right, the next big thing is the MacBook Pro with Retina gets a Haswell upgrade. So for those of you who have been sleeping under a rock for the last however many months, Haswell is basically better performance, better battery life, and lower power consumption, which ties pretty nicely into better battery life.
Laptops.
Dramatically improved onboard graphics. So the new Pro is available in the 15-inch model with Iris Pro and Crystal Well. So Crystal Well, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, this one I'm not going to say you were living under a rock because this is not that bad to not know this, but Crystal Well is basically 128 megs of extra cache that can be used not only by the CPU component but also the GPU component, which is fascinating because it's a straight overflow pretty much. So anything that just falls out of level 3 goes straight into this 128 meg cache. It's a massive cache, and it sits somewhere in speed between level 3 cache and RAM. And because it's simply an overflow, and obviously anything that overflows from level 3 is something that you were recently using, it is very efficiently used. And then the fact that it can be leveraged for the GPU as well, for the integrated GPU, is game-changing. It is no secret that no matter who you ask, whether it's Intel or AMD, they're going to say the future is CPUs and GPUs working together on every task that you perform. OpenCL is a thing, and the new the new Mavericks version of OS X has full support for OpenCL, and they're claiming up to 1.8x performance in supported tasks. And given the way that Apple ties the software and the hardware together so well, I would expect to see OpenCL actually make a difference on that platform before we see it making much of a difference on other platforms.
Well, it makes sense because they don't have much hardware and much software to sync, which helps a lot. It's part of the reason why it's so hard for all other platforms. Is there's so many basically infinite different combinations of hardware you could have it installed on. One thing about Mavericks too, and a bunch of all their other software notifications that I heard about during the show.
Yeah,
iWork, Mavericks. Was there anything else?
I can't remember.
iWork, Mavericks, and possibly other things. Anything software.
Lots of software that neither of us have ever used before.
I have.
Have you? How is it?
It sucks.
Okay.
But it might not have actually been bad. It just sucked because I don't know how to use them.
It's apparently better now.
That's good, and it's free in today.
Yeah, so if you buy any Mac hardware, you now get iWork for free, and if you own any Mac OS going back like the last 5 years, you get an upgrade to Mavericks for free. So software is now officially free if you're willing to pay the Apple tax for your hardware, which, as I've noted on this show before, at launch usually isn't that bad, and the new MacBook Pros are cheaper by about $200 for base configs versus the outgoing models. So
right.
None of these are necessarily terrible things. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the other thing is Apple's showing their commitment to, greener everything. So they had lists of all the different,
right.
reduction of hazardous substances and all that. The new Mac Pro, they talked a little bit more about it. It's going to be assembled in the US, which is, it's only one product, and it's not going to make us forget about the explosions in the factories of iPad polishing workers with all the aluminum dust and people dying. No, we haven't forgotten about that, but
at least they're moving towards it.
You can't criticize a step in the right direction.
No, and if they're going to start with this, maybe they'll get some more factories, more plants, more supervisors, blah, 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 over time.
And, I mean, honestly, we as consumers have to prove that we're willing to pay more for something that is, assembled, at least assembled in our home country, or not our home country, but someone's home country. We have to prove that we're willing to pay more for it, for companies to be willing to invest in moving production back onto their home turf. And and I don't blame them for that. They have to sell product. If they don't sell product, they won't exist. And then someone else will outsource to overseas, and it doesn't fix it.
Yeah, that's the first thing so many companies do. Increase profit margins overseas. Let's get it out of the States because it costs so much to actually manufacture. I ended up just punching that thing.
Yeah,
but
just punch all the things. We're angry.
Increase profits, punch things.
Yes. All right, so here we go, guys. It's Twitter Blitz time. So Jacob says you should get a Lego Mindstorm EV3.
Lego Mindstorms are actually really cool.
Yeah, I just don't know that that's necessarily our video sort of approach.
They are really cool, though.
Eventually, Apple will have to call the next iPod Touch the iTouch Kids. Will be hilarious when it happens.
Oh, God.
That's terrible, Ben.
That's
terrible. What is that keyboard you guys have with the red translucent keys? I know where you can buy it. You can buy it on banggood.com, which isn't as bad as it sounds, but they do have, like, sex toys and stuff. What's it called again?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
It's got a crazy name, and most of it's not in English.
What do you think of a carbon fiber wrap 900D? As long as the carbon fiber wrap doesn't weigh much more, then it's probably fine. Man, that's a heavy case. We'll have to rag on George a little bit about that when he gets on. Mantle versus G-Sync. Oh, trust me, we'll be talking about this later.
There's a segment coming.
Which do you think is a better advancement in technology? Okay, I gotta save that.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's Nokia, not Nokia. Okay. Nikon, I don't know. In English, it's Nokia. So if I were to read it phonetically, but I'm sorry if I've broken the rules. Nokia. Can people in Brazil go to Colombia or Mexico and get a PS4 for $400? No, I think a lot of South American countries have similar problems. I don't know specifically if Colombia does or Mexico.
I'm pretty sure it's more expensive. If it's the same as like laptops and stuff, it'll be more expensive in Mexico.
All right, how do you think the 780 Ti? No idea. 780 Ti is not out yet. Even if we knew, we couldn't talk about it. What to upgrade my GTX 680? You know what? We have a great discussion topic on that as well. The slowing of the pace of technology advancements, particularly as it pertains to graphics cards. So there's not a whole lot to upgrade a GTX 680 to right now. Will Nvidia graphics cards support Mantle in the future? No. Also, will G-Sync be worth getting against maybe an AMD Mantle card? More discussion on that later.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone just wants to talk about Mantle and G-Sync. Trust me, we will.
We'll talk about it for a while.
We will talk about it. Yeah. Tuning in from the North Pole. Very nice.
That's pretty cool.
I'm not clicking a bit.ly link in Twitter, though.
Scary.
Matrix Edition of Asus GPUs are designed mainly for overclocking, right? What extras does it deliver? What Well, mostly overclocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, better cooling.
Better cooling, sometimes better power delivery. We've seen that a little bit on Asus GPUs, I believe.
Apparently, it's lagging a little bit on and off. Yeah, we're aware. Not really sure. Not really sure what's going on.
I think we're
with
at a
that.
lower bit rate of the stream.
Yeah, we could try that.
Because I'm pretty sure I moved it back up to 2500 for the last stream.
Hello from Greece. How's Rocket? He's good. He's putting on weight already. And what do you think can be improved on a second version of the Pebble? You know, do they have color e-ink screens?
No.
I don't think so.
I haven't heard. I don't know, but I haven't heard of any.
Guys, tweet us or let me know in the Twitch chat if they have colored e-ink.
I'll watch Twitch chat. You keep going.
I don't think so. But
I just banned someone on accident. I'm gonna undo. Penance 81. I put my hand down on my touchpad and timed you out for 10 minutes. I'm sorry, I don't know how to undo that. If any of the mods know how, that'd be great.
Owen asks, thoughts on which pair of skull candies you may want to review. I'm going to pick up the aviators at some point here because apparently they actually don't suck.
I've heard, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to pick up those. And then for lulz, I'm going to grab like some of their like $80 earbuds.
And then just be like, they suck.
And then I'm just going to be like, yeah, they're terrible because I think we all knew that was coming.
But the aviators,
I've heard they're great.
I've heard they are great, but I heard there's just as good in way cheaper price brackets.
Well,
I don't know if that's actually a thing or not. I've just heard that.
Okay, but you do pay a premium for real brand names, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I buy. When's the last time you bought headphones? Did you buy No Name or did you buy Bear Dynamic?
Well, I bought Bear Dynamic.
There you go.
But these are like.
Yeah, okay. Fine.
Not really.
Do you think we will eventually see an AMD or Nvidia flavor of SteamOS, since the source will be available to anyone? No. Because they'll just use SteamOS.
Yeah. With
AMD or Nvidia drivers. In fact, I think Nvidia is going a completely different route, and they're chasing the Android. So more on that, but their new console mode for Shield looks outstanding. I basically don't need a home theater PC anymore, and I've had one for years. I'm a huge home theater PC guy. I will be replacing it with an Nvidia Shield. All right, what is the keyboard you guys have with the red translucent? Oh, okay, that's a duplicate tweet. Do you want to bring George in? Because I think we're pretty much ready to go.
Where does my TeamSpeak keep going?
Very exciting. All right, $79.90 versus $780, same price but slightly older tech. $79.90 raw performance is going to be pretty darn good, but until AMD completely fixes their frame timings issues, I would probably lean towards the 780. With that said, if you check out the latest article on PC where he's got Ryan's got 290Xs running in Crossfire, they are making some pretty major strides on the driver development side, getting that issue taken care of. So are we live with the one, the only George?
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey George, how are ya?
Doing good.
Doing good. My volume isn't doing so good, so give me just a second here. I'm going to try and turn you up a little bit so I can hear you.
Yeah.
That is a handsome picture.
That is a very handsome picture. Where did we get this picture?
I didn't get it.
Oh, okay. Well, apparently one of my guys picked out this picture of you, and you can share your appreciation with him if you'd like. I'll pass it along.
All right, thanks.
So tell us about yourself. Where are you from? What kind of cases have you gotten your fingers into? All that kind of stuff.
Okay, I started Corsair about 10 years ago, 9.5 years ago, doing like memory test crap, and then just got really opinionated in meetings, and basically they said, okay, well, let's see if George actually knows what he's talking about, and occasionally I did. So as long as my success rate is better than my fail rate, they keep listening. So that's basically it. But yeah, I actually got the job because I saw a post on a hardware review site that said Corsair was looking for memory test guys, and they happen to be local. So I just sent an email saying, hey, I'm interested, and I got the job. So, you can just kind of move from being a fan of hardware stuff into making hardware if you actually pay attention.
You know what? That is a fantastic story, and that's one of the things that I think is really inspiring for our viewers to hear. Because a lot of them will reach out to me and ask me things like, hey Linus, how I'm trying to. That's interesting. Where is it? I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you here, and I think that I'm missing the connector from my earphones.
Here, you keep going.
Okay, all right. So I think that's really.
It might be because you're using like Razer headset.
Yeah, I don't know what the impedance of these is, but maybe it's a touch higher than I was expecting.
No.
I don't think that's the issue. I think it might be to do with our splitter here, but for some reason the end connector of my SteelSeries earbuds, which are also not Corsair, although you guys don't make earbuds for what that's worth. All right, anyway, I think that's inspiring. I think that's really cool, and I think viewers love hearing stories like that. What were some of the challenges that you faced going from being a peon to being, well, the key guy when it comes to designing Corsair cases?
Actually, so when my first thing I started with was power supplies because first and they just expanded into like USB drives, and then someone sent an email saying, hey, "Do you think power supplies?" Actually, our president Andy email saying, "Do you guys think we should do power supplies?" And I was relatively new, and I was like, "Yeah, we should do power supplies, and here's what we should do, and here's what the connectors should be, and all that stuff." And I spec'd it all out, and then I got another email saying, "Okay, you work with this guy and start building it." And then that became really successful. So now we're like the #1 guy in power supplies. So they said, "Okay, well, when we do new products that are like that, like cases or power supplies or coolers, you should be the guy involved." So the challenge is just like actually trying to learn the logistics and manufacturing side stuff, which is actually kind of difficult.
Yeah, it's. I think that people don't have nearly enough appreciation for. I remember. You know what? This reminds me. I saw. I think it was back on Extreme Systems. Some guy designed an ultimate case. It was kind of based on a TJ07-ish like design, and it had all this radiator space and it had all this stuff about it. And I looked at the thing and I kind of went, "Dude, that's unmanufacturable." And he went, "You know what? You're not supporting my dream. You're this, you're that." And I'm kind of sitting there going, "You don't understand the challenges at play here. You know what? Why don't you? Now that it's been a long time, now that it's been a while, tell us about the biggest problem you had bringing 800D to market."
Okay, so the first case, 800D, was kind of funny because we didn't really know anything about. Always done memory and USB drives, which you can put in like a little clamshell or a box, and you put it in another bigger box, and then you put it on an airplane and fly it across the planet. The challenge with the 800D was never built anything so complex mechanically because it had so many different. Actually, getting like 800Ds from the factory in China to other people that wanted to buy them became a huge nightmare. Like, it turns out you can't put those on an airplane and fly them around. That's a really bad idea. So it costs way too much to do that. So you ended up trying to do container optimization and stuff like that for boats, which is actually, it's boring for you guys, but these are what guys who like sell mattresses and refrigerators have to figure out. How to ship giant things across the country.
Or across the world.
Yeah. Exactly. It's actually really challenging to figure that out. So one of the things we learned, for example, if you look at the 650D and the 600T, they were the second and third cases we designed, and they had the same internals, but they're very different external dimensions. Like the outside of the 600T is a lot bigger than the 650D. So it actually cost 650D, which is, again, to the end user, you guys don't care. You just pick it up and put it in your car and drive home or whatever, or have it delivered by NCAX or Newegg or whoever. But for us, that's like, okay, well, can we fit 500 or 700 in a container? That's the type of question we have to answer.
Right, and so, container shipping's not cheap.
Interesting thing. The feature set stuff. No, it's challenging too. So that's a really boring answer. But the other side of it is that for the specs, we can just ask you guys what to build, and you guys tell us. So that's really easy because we can just say, hey, should we put 4 hard drive bays or 6? And then the answer is we can put whatever you guys tell us.
Right. So speaking of putting a case in your car and driving home with it, 900D, that barely fits in my car. Did you go through this whole challenge again with 900D of convincing people at Corsair that you needed to build this case? And has it been successful in your eyes?
Yeah, we totally did. We had to convince our president, Andy, that we needed a successor to 800D, which was, this giant case. And we had to argue that, hey, guys, look online. These guys want more radiator space. They want bigger motherboards, all these things. And so, we said, okay, it's been 3 years. Let's do it. And it took a long time because it's actually not an inexpensive chassis to make either. Like tooling it up costs a lot of money. So and when we can sit there and say, and then he goes, well, how many can you sell in a month? And then you have to answer that. So the business side of it is the interesting part. But the 900D, making it even bigger, when we saw the 800D was so big when we launched it, people were like laughing at how big it was. Now 900D makes 800D look like a mid tower. So it's still kind of overkill, but we've seen a lot of traction from it. A lot of guys are buying it because they really wanted that water cooling room.
Now, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see our overkill water cooling build guide where we stuffed 5 radiators into the 900D? 5 thick radiators?
I think I did see that actually.
We had to
It's
do
one of those things that
we had to fight with it a little bit, which was kind of funny to me because I stupidly looked at the side of the box and I saw all the different radiator support things, and it didn't occur to me that you couldn't necessarily fit all of those in all at the same time in the default configuration. So we ended up taking one of the radiators and actually mounting it to the motherboard tray. So was that something you expected people to do, or?
Yeah. No, I didn't quite expect that to be achieved in that way. I see how you guys did that. I'm like looking at the YouTube video on the other window. That's pretty clever actually. But man, those are some really ugly fans. But
I know, man, but they're really good. I mean, I don't expect you
really
to acknowledge
quiet.
that. That's fine. That's fine. I understand that. But they're extremely quiet, and the performance is outstanding. And I know you guys know that. So you can troll me all you want, but I know you know that they're good. All right, so I guess the last thing here is
they're pretty good.
For those of you in the audience who don't know what Corsair is all about, George, what makes Corsair different from other companies?
I lost you guys' audio there for some reason.
Oh, okay, I said, George, what makes Corsair different from other companies?
I would have to say that internally we have a group of engineers that kind of run everything. So like the directors and executives are all trained engineers, which makes it very different from.
Oh, hold on a second, George.
Audio again for some reason.
You know what? Hold on a second. Are you on Wi-Fi?
No.
Yes.
Not you, George. I think that's the problem. So, give us 1 second here. How can join the other one?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Okay, we'll be back with George in just a moment. So in the meantime, those of you watching, I would love for you to tweet us. So tweet at Linus Tech and let us know any questions that you have for George. Once we've gotten through a couple more topics, we are going to go ahead and.
I'm working on it.
You're working on it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and have George answer some of those questions for you in a Twitter Blitz type format. So we should be back with him here in just a couple of moments. We are connecting to our Cisco hotspot, which should be able to connect, but for whatever reason is unable to connect. You have, okay, we are going to go ahead and we're going to go through my phone because apparently that's a better solution than trying to use Wi-Fi for some reason. All right. So that should show up in just a moment here. All right. Oh, man.
We could jump and see if there's any new Twitter questions while we're
Yeah, we can jump in, see if there's any new Twitter questions for the moment. So let's go ahead and head over there. Here we go. All right, hopefully you guys are starting to hit us with some of the questions for George here. All right.
There we go.
All right, we're back.
All right, George is back. Okay, we should be stable now on the audio side. So tell us again, what makes Corsair different from other companies?
I think the main deal is that we're by engineers for the most part. Our company has a bunch of engineers at the management level, director level, and all those guys. So if something has to be done, it has to be done like in a way that we make sure it actually has a performance difference instead of just kind of marketing a performance difference.
Right. Was that the whole thing? Is that it in a nutshell?
That's the biggest difference. I mean, if you go by engineers, they have engineering groups, but go to the director and he's like a marketing guy or an advertising guy or something like that.
Right. Okay.
It's actually a really good point because a lot of companies don't. There seems to be that obvious disconnect, where they don't really get it.
Yeah, well, you see products released and you kind of go, did anyone actually build an enthusiast-grade computer in this case?
Yeah.
And with Corsair, I think they usually prove that they did because the marketing materials usually contain a finished high-end build actually built in the thing. It's like, look, no, we actually did validate this.
Yeah, there's a couple of our competitors that have enthusiasts on board too. Like, we have a bunch of enthusiasts in-house, and, myself, I build my own systems and do that stuff, and then some other guys here too. But a lot of our competitors, they don't really have that. So you can see, for example, I'll give like Rob at NZXT and those guys. Those are enthusiasts. Those guys know the enthusiast level stuff. I don't know what the management's like or anything like that, but they definitely have enthusiasts on board. But if you look at some of our other competitors, when you see the kind of decisions they make and where they put like screw holes and where they put a really bad door on a case or something like that, you just know this person's never actually going to use that, and so they never really thought about what the usage would look like.
Right. So I want to launch into one of our non-Corsair topics here. We shared the doc with you. Hopefully you had a chance to look at this, but there is a fantastic editorial piece on PC Perspective. So I'm just going to go ahead and show this to the viewers. Next-gen graphics and process migration, 20 nanometers and beyond. So, George, what was your first performance-grade graphics card?
My first PC that I ever bought had a S3 Verge 2 megabyte card in it, which was terrible. And this is like 1995 or 1996. But the first performance-grade card I bought was probably a Voodoo, 3DFX Voodoo card that had 4 megs, and it had a card that you had to use a TD card, and then that was the 3D card. And so that was my first performance 3D card, and it was playing like the original Tomb Raider and GL Quake and MechWarrior 2 and stuff on that.
Awesome. Okay, so you are exactly the kind of person that this article is geared towards. It's a fantastic article, and basically what it does is it goes through the history of what we've seen. So they've got some pretty iconic cards that they're showing off here in the written section of the article, and it basically talks about the way that process node migrations have gone for the last, really for the last almost 20 years, to the point where graphics performance has been outstripping the traditional Moore's law, because not only are they able to pack in more transistors, they've been making much more efficient use of them as time's gone by. And what's happening right now, and I think what enthusiasts are getting upset about, is it's just not that easy anymore to keep driving graphics performance up. So so you saw that both Nvidia and AMD's most recent launches were rebrands, effectively. What's your take on that? Has it just gotten too difficult to keep pushing performance forward at the rate that people have honestly been spoiled by? Have you felt spoiled?
I think that honestly what's happened is that they can push performance a little bit, but the software is not able to keep up with the hardware. So I think you'll see a couple of things over the next little bit. I think you're going to see, as 4K becomes much more popular, some of these guys are talking about 4K monitors and stuff in the near future, a lot more 4K stuff that pushes video cards to their limits, and that's going to make video cards a really big deal. Right now at 1080p, I mean, that's the kind of standard your TV runs on, and cell phones are running on that now. So I think you see a lot more people are running that easily, but 4K is going to be a real big stressor. But I do think that it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep that pace up. I don't think it's really, at some point you can't make that process of shrinkage any better. 20 nanometer, 16, 14, 12, whatever, you're not going to get that much better.
So tell me this. Do you feel like not only on the CPU, GPU side, people have been a little bit spoiled similarly in other categories? I mean, when you're working on a new case, I mean, what are the overall goals? Okay, you have to build it cheaper, you have to sell more, it has to have more features, and we want to see some amazing innovations, and it has to look great.
Yeah, I think that. So when we launched the 800D, we put some rubber grommet cable routing holes in it, and hot swap hard drives and a push button side panel release, and suddenly everyone was like, "Oh my God, what have you guys done?" And the world changed. But now, like, you go buy a $40 case and it has like rubber grommet cable routing holes and stuff like that. So you're right, the standardized stuff has changed quite a bit. people have kind of been spoiled. You're just used to that your hard drive won't require you to screw anything in, and all that stuff is new. I mean, it's relatively new. So, I mean, now you have to come up with something like the Air 540 where it's like, hey, we, changed the form factor a little bit and formatted it specifically for this purpose. And I think people are responding well to that. They're saying, okay, how many cases can you launch where the hard drive cage is in the same place and the optical drive cage is in the same place and the motherboard's the same size? And okay, so this one has 7 slots instead of 6, but I don't really care, So I think you're right. You do have to come up with something new and innovative, and it's getting more and more challenging. But luckily with mechanical stuff, you can do that much easier than you can with like actually shrinking the manufacturing process of a GPU die.
So, metal costs. How do you guys deal with the fact that metal inherently costs more over time? And unlike, the traditional PC component expectation where pricing should just always be in free fall, whether it's hard drives or CPUs, where again, it's this spoiled mentality of the PC customer. How do you guys deal with that?
Well, it's actually, so that's not really, I haven't seen that too much. I think what you see is that when people want to buy a new product, they decide what their budget is or, what features they really want, and then they go out and look for it. So for graphics card guys, you see a lot of people that say, hey, $200-300, that's what I'm going to spend on a graphics card. I'm just not going to spend that much more, and anything less than that I'm not going to be satisfied with. And whether they spend $200-300 this year or in 2 years, that's kind of their budget. I think cases, you get kind of that same thing. A guy wants to spend X amount of dollars on a case, and he goes out and looks around and says, this is the one I like best for that price point. And you can maybe talk him up, or he can be talked down depending on the feature set. But I don't think they really care too much that the case cost, $159 last year still costs $159 because it's not like the metal got cheaper.
Yeah.
So why have you guys not done an ITX case yet?
Wait, there's ITX now? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, there's stuff in the roadmap. There's stuff being worked on.
Ah, okay. So you're not going to tell us any more than that. I thought we were friends.
I'll tell you what, you can come to CES and we can shoot another video like you did with 900D, and we'll talk about it then.
All right. Hey, that's that. Now I feel like we're getting friendly here. We're having some fun. All right, because I mean, Corsair is synonymous with performance PCs. And I think that performance PCs have really come to ITX in a way that they hadn't up until the last year or so. And so I'm excited to speculate that there will potentially be some alleged thing to talk about at CES this year.
Alleged, yeah. Like the answer really is that Mini ITX, like you said, had been kind of boring for the past few years until Intel kind of put everything on the CPU die itself, so that your memory controller is gone and your like Southbridge is almost gone completely. Like USB and all that SATA stuff, rather, is going to be all CPU integrated. So now motherboards can be really, really small because they don't have to make footprint for all the different components. So for the first time, Mini ITX motherboards have really good performance in the past year or two. And so now we're seeing a lot more Mini ITX performance builds. Before it was just kind of, you want Mini ITX, you might as well just buy like a Mac Mini or one of those A-Open little micro PC things, and that was it.
Yeah, or there'd be like one board option that isn't an Intel server board or something like that, or like...
Yeah, you go out and like Zotac. Zotac was really good at that. They did a bunch of really cool small form factor boards.
Yes. And they basically made it cool so that ASUS could swoop in and completely take all the market share away from them, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, that's what ASUS does really well. Like, hey, someone did something cool, let's do that way better, and just jump in and launch 10 versions of it.
Yeah, they really are good at that, aren't they?
Yep.
So between Corsair and ASUS, is there really any other, and then AMD or Intel and Nvidia or AMD again, is there really anything else that you feel like you need for an awesome PC these days?
Well, it depends on what kind of beer you like. That's my personal preference. Actually, I use a lot of different stuff, but so for gaming headsets, when I'm playing a game, I use like a V2000. But for when I'm talking on like listening to music, I actually use high-end headphones. So I'm still playing in that game. Like I have a nice set of biodynamics that I use for music, but when I play games and stuff and I want the mic, I just put on my 2000s, vintage 2000s.
Cool.
How much would you love Corsair to get into true audiophile grade headphones as opposed to gaming headphones?
I would be really excited about that. But the trick is, it's a tough market. You know, there's a lot of leverage to the old brands. Like, you can't like exactly launch a new quality brand easily. It takes a lot of time to get people to realize that you're not just trying to, you know, rip off Beats or somebody like that.
Fair enough. All right, so next topic. This one has made some waves over the last little bit here. So this was posted on the forum by Top War Gamer, and there's a quote here. Call of Duty developer Infinity Ward has suggested that the people most engaged with the franchise aren't really gamers at all, as they don't play any titles that aren't affiliated with the series. That's according to executive producer Mark Rubin, who told OXM that he didn't expect the imminent arrival of the next-gen consoles to have much of an impact on the makeup of COD's audience. So the original article was from IGN, and I'll just pull this up here. There's a very angry thread on our forum, but I want to hear your initial reaction. Is someone who plays a game, as opposed to lots of games, a gamer?
That's a tough one. That depends on, would they call themselves a gamer or would we call them gamers? I think you get a little bit of that. So I don't want to come across like, hey, you know, all the cool guys are, you know, playing, you know, Quake back in the day and all that stuff. I mean, there's guys who didn't get into gaming because they weren't old enough to be into those kinds of games. But yeah, I would say that he's probably got a point, and what I think he might have been trying to say is that your average Call of Duty gamer isn't like a hardcore gamer who plays like, you know, 10 titles a year. He may just play like 1 or 2 Call of Duty titles. But, you know, I when I was really gaming, I have kids now, so I don't game as much, but when I was really gaming a lot, you know, every month or something, I would find some new game to play and beat through, and then go back to Counter-Strike and wait for the next one.
Yeah, that's pretty much
Yeah, that sounds like what a lot of people did. However, I am going to throw this out there. Is a professional hockey player who lives, breathes, and eats nothing but hockey an athlete?
Yeah.
You know, like how do we define the term gamer if not someone who plays games? And then that leads into that whole other debate. So, I mean, you're an old school gamer guy. Is someone who plays, like, I've been playing this game on my Nvidia Shield. It's called, I don't know, it's some stupid game on the Shield store where you're like this swordsman and you jump around and like hack at stuff, and it's a super casual game. Am I still a gamer if I don't play any, you know, real hardcore games anymore?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's like, okay, my wife plays Candy Crush on her phone, right? Does that make her a gamer? I mean, you and I might say, no, that's ridiculous. That's just a phone game. But, I mean, if you look at it from with the way that these guys are saying, hey, the gaming market is growing, that's where the gaming market is really growing quickly, is like Facebook games and mobile app games. I would say that if you don't have like a dedicated graphics card in your system, you're not a gamer. Like if you don't understand what the WASD cluster is, you're not a gamer. Like that's my like snobbish kind of arrogant attitude towards it.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, but then to be fair, like I don't want to scare new gamers off either. I don't want to be like, hey, you know, we're the cool kids and you're just a new guy and get the hell out of our cool club. I want people that like, hey, maybe if you started playing Candy Crush Saga, you'd realize like how cool games can be, and then maybe you'd move up and play other games. And that's like what I want people to feel like is like, hey, let's welcome the more gamers that get into this business and industry, like, and the more games that get sold, that's better for everybody. Like, it's better because then more gamers get moved into buying new stuff, and you guys get cooler hardware and cooler mice and keyboards and you know, gaming monitors. Everything gets better if there's more people here.
Yeah, it's very true, and I think a lot of it is your personal mindset too, because like I know friends that play hockey that would consider themselves athletes, and I know friends that play hockey that would not consider themselves athletes. So I think it also depends like where you're at. Like there might be a dude that plays COD every night, but he only plays it for 20 minutes before bed and he doesn't really feel like a gamer. Then there might be someone who plays COD every night and only plays it 20 minutes before bed, but is really excited for that every time and reads up on all the new articles on new games and is really into it and considers himself a gamer.
That's a great point, because I play one sport. I play badminton. That's it. I only play once a week. I would call myself a badminton player. I wouldn't call myself an athlete.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Would you call me an athlete?
No.
Right. But I play
there's also some
competitive
people-
badminton
Yeah.
in a ladder. I play in a competitive ladder every Sunday night, and I'm pretty decent.
But then there's also
But I'm
some
not an
other
athlete.
people that are probably a little bit more hardcore into it that only play badminton that would call themselves an athlete.
Yes.
So I think it
Yeah.
depends a lot on the individual person.
So the question is really the guy, the Call of Duty guy from Infinity Ward or whatever that said that, he's just trying to say that, and what he's trying to say is Call of Duty players are Call of Duty players. They're not gamers, and he's trying to brand them specifically as guys who love Call of Duty, not guys who love all games. And that's a solid point. There's a lot of dudes who don't play anything but Call of Duty.
This is a good perspective because I think most of the replies on our forum were just very angry about the implication that someone who plays only one game isn't a gamer, but this is a much more balanced approach to it, I think. I do want to move on because I've got a topic that I'm sure you are going to love to talk about. I don't know if you saw this one. I added it at the last minute. But this is a blog on the post on the one and only Corsair.com. Battlefield 4 loves high-speed memory. And was this a guest article that you guys had Dustin write? Is he still at Anontek, or
No.
what's the deal?
No, Dustin works for us now.
When did
we
that
just
happen?
Simulated him. He started on October 1st. So he started this month. So we hired Dustin. He's local, so we said, hey, the more guys who know the industry and know hardware, the better that work at Corsair. So we offered you a job too, Linus, but you live in Canada, so.
I know, right?
Exactly.
My dog sleds couldn't actually carry me all the way down there. I would run out of snow, so I couldn't figure out how I would actually move to California.
Yeah. And we already have our quota of one Canadian guy with Terran, so we can't really hire another one. But yeah, so we're looking at hiring more what we call people with enthusiast DNA. So Dustin definitely has it. He knows the industry. He knows that stuff. So we want that kind of person here at Corsair. So with Dustin, actually, we asked him to look at this just to see, hey, play with the Battlefield 4 beta and see what you find out. And one of the things he found was this, which, to be quite honest, I could not believe it when I saw this, because I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
I was blown away.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, consciously, it doesn't make any damn sense. You're looking at it and you're like, what? That doesn't make sense. And then obviously internally we're like, well, of course people are going to say Corsair says fast memory makes a difference because they sell fast memory, and we're totally biased and everything. But I've seen the benchmarks. It makes a difference. And next week when the game hits live and you guys can test it yourselves, I highly recommend checking it out because it's weird.
We will validate this. Sorry, go ahead.
I had actually already talked to Linus about this before I had seen this article, and I had already talked to him about how our benchmarks for Battlefield 4 are going to be interesting, and I might want to do a whole bunch of extra stuff because we've found a lot more usage on CPU than normal on a lot more cores, and we found, I found, and some other people, that the memory was being used a lot more, and people that had really high speed memory were actually getting more performance, which is weird. We just recently did a video about how it doesn't do that.
We just did a video where we took some games and we basically went, look, memory speed doesn't matter for gaming. Well, I guess it's time to throw all that out the window because, for one thing, BF4 has, I think, 6 gigs is the requirement, and then 8 gigs is recommended. And then number two, if we're going to see at 1920 by 1080, 10% performance improvements in minimum FPS, which is the one that matters, we all know this, and at Eyefinity settings, so 5760 by 1200, over 20% performance improvements just from going from 1600 to DDR3 2400. This is a game changer for you guys. All of a sudden you have something to talk about again on the memory side.
Yeah, we're really excited internally. We finally, we kiss the heat spreaders and send them out the door, and we're ready to go. But no, the difference is actually we're stoked about it because a couple years ago, now 5 years ago, when Battlefield 2 came out, I did a blog because I found out that actually having I think it was 2 gig versus 4 gig or 4 gig versus 8 gig or something made a difference on big maps when you were on an airplane or in a helicopter. When the map had to load a bunch of textures at once, if you had 4 gigs of RAM or 8 gigs of RAM, whatever it was, it made a performance difference. And so we were stoked about it because Battlefield has always pushed hardware kind of in a special way. Not quite like Crisis level, but it's always pushed hardware kind of interestingly. So these guys are definitely putting a lot more effort into the CPU and memory than most guys are. And I like the fact, as a PC gamer, I like the fact that they said they don't care what it looks like on consoles. They want it to be fast and look good on PC first, and that's their target. And if it has to be dumbed down for consoles, then so be it. I like that approach better than, the console guys are complaining if it looks better on PC. Screw that.
No, actually,
console guys, Console guys should suffer.
This was great. I had a chance to have some one-on-one time with Johan Anderson, who's their lead technical director for Frostbite. And he basically was talking about how they're building Frostbite 3 for the future. Like, that's the idea. What they're building right now, this is a heavy, heavy investment, and they want this thing to scale, to continue to scale with future hardware, and I find that incredibly exciting. And the fact that they've done such a great job of, for the first time in many hardware generations, giving us a reason to have anything other than dual-channel DDR2 800 megahertz is fantastic. I mean, remember when DDR3 first came into the limelight, and it was like, yeah, there's no performance delta whatsoever. And it's been that story for so long now. This is great.
Yeah, it's been tough to say. I mean, it's not a surprise to anybody. We've never even claimed recently that there's been a gaming performance benefit from high-end RAM. It's always been like encoding or something like that, because gaming is almost all GPU limited. But now we're actually seeing some games make a difference again. So we're pretty excited about it. I think that, I mean, I don't expect everyone to go out and buy 29, 33 megahertz Dominator Platinums and whatever else. But
you can, a girl can dream, right?
Some difference.
We could use some of those.
Dream all you want. Yeah.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, we could use some of those. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen. I can't even get those right now. So.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I even had an opportunity to ask for some of the 3000 megahertz ones back when those launched, and I was just like, you know what? We won't really be able to do anything with them, because what am I going to say about these things other than like, hey, Corsair made this RAM, it's totally unnecessary, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I don't want you guys to give me something that there's nothing for me to say about other than that. So
no, there's, it's kind of like once something has reached that kind of commodity scale, like, what do you want to review Toothpaste next? What do you say, like, my teeth still feel clean, so good luck, Colgate,
My mouth tastes great. We should totally do a toothpaste unboxing.
You should have
just
to
take the toothpaste tube and be like, ah.
You have to try and talk about it while you're brushing your teeth.
Like yards of toothpaste per tube, and just like strip it down the street.
We could do speed tests. So like if you squeeze it, how fast does it actually come out? Or like if you slam it, durability of the tube.
We could pack it into your backpack and
slam an entire tube.
If you have it in your luggage,
eat an entire tube of Aquafresh.
How many sharp things can be in your luggage before the tube gets punctured and spills all over everything?
Yeah, and then how quickly do you get put in the TSA prison?
We need it because there would be this gel all over everything in your bag. It would smell minty fresh, though.
That's a terrible job. Someone's job is to test the viscosity of toothpaste. That's like, someone has to do that. Someone has to sit there and make sure that every batch of Aquafresh has the same viscosity, and it's not too runny or too pasty. Because they're like, this is the sweet spot. This is what we've determined through market research. This is what people like.
You know what? Sometimes my job's kind of hard, but then I tell myself, like, yeah, at least I don't have to do that.
At least you don't have to test the viscosity of toothpaste.
Exactly. It could be worse. I could be the toothpaste guy. But the toothpaste guy is like, at least I don't do mayonnaise,
All right, so the last thing for you, George, is we've got a Twitter blitz. So we've asked our guys to ask you some, quick questions, and the idea is as soon as you hear the question, you answer it as quickly as you can, and we move on to the next one. So
okay.
Here we go. So I asked them to send in some questions for George, and for whatever reason, Chrome's being a turd for me here.
Again?
So. Yeah, it's doing that thing where I try to scroll it and it's just not being very cooperative. So, here we go. I remember, here it goes. It's back. What is Corsair going to do to make Hydro series better?
We're always pushing the level of performance quickly, so better performance stuff, easier to install, and working on better noise control stuff so that you guys that want to make it quieter can make it quieter, and those of you guys who want to go for the performance can make it faster. That's the end goal. Cooler, quieter, easier to install. Every generation gets better.
Speaking of which, this is another great follow-up question. Question for George. Is Corsair planning an H110i? So something with Corsair Link, speaking of better control and fan profiles and pump profiles.
So two things. Yeah, we will eventually, I'm sure, have a Corsair Link version of the high-end coolers like the 110i, and then the other side of it is Corsair Link is being significantly revamped as well. So we're doing much better versions of Corsair Link, and they're in development now too. So we've actually the 2.5 software is going to be launched in beta pretty quick, and that has a lot of bug fixes and Windows 8.1 compatibility and all that stuff. So we're going to have some stuff ready to go on our forums pretty quickly for that.
George, will there ever be SP140s? And will we ever see LED versions of SP series fans?
Yes, there will eventually be SP140s. I can't give you a better date on that, but there will be SP140s. The LED versions of the SP series fans, if enough people ask us for them, then yeah, we can do that pretty quickly. But I just, I don't know that there's a lot of guys putting LED fans on their radiators or heat sinks. Most people put them in their cases and the side panels and front panels. But if they really want LED SP fans and they bug us on Facebook about it enough, then yeah, we'll do it.
I'm going to throw this at you, George. Some people are obsessive compulsive enough that they're just not willing to buy different fans to put in different parts of their system, and they want all the same fans. And someone's pointing at me. I have no idea what his problem is. So for me, because AF series fans are much worse on heatsinks and radiators compared to SP, and SP isn't really that much worse in an open airflow environment compared to AF series, if I was going to pick one, I would pick SP. And so that is my justification for LED SP fans needing to exist. Just throwing that out there. So
we'll do a Linus edition LED with like your face on the hub label so that it spins around really quickly, but then when it's off you can tell it's a Linus fan.
Can I be giving like a thumbs up and be wearing like awesome Corsair sunglasses that are like this big?
Yeah, we can have giant sunglasses and like a little like caricature of you on the box. That'd be awesome.
If you guys do a Linus edition product, then I will give you guys $3,000 of free advertising on Linus Tech Tips YouTube channel. There. That's my
careful what you wish for.
Small
you didn't
incentive.
specify which product.
All right.
You didn't specify which product.
Okay, no, hold on a second. I don't want a Linus Edition USB butt plug because that would be too predictable.
We almost made it through a stream.
Well, I have to take something off the roadmap now. I have to go talk to our USB person and say, "Hey, kill that."
All right. Why doesn't Corsair become a system builder?
Because all our competitors do that. That's what our competitors are doing. That's not our competitors. I'm sorry. That's what most of our customers are doing. So if you go to like CyberPower and Digital Storm and those guys.
Oh, because I thought you were taking a shot at those one guys that sort of exists and sort of a thing. Okay.
Actually,
carry on.
I just kind of forgot how to speak English for a second, and I forgot what words mean. No, realistically, the trick is that we wanted to make sure that that we got the best product for our suppliers and stuff like that. And actually, that's a completely different skill set. Building up a system and then selling it to people, that's different than selling hobby parts.
Fair enough.
What the hell was that?
He's pulling something out of his bag. So.
Yeah, my battery's about to die on my laptop, which is going to be a real problem for me. So here, do you have a plug that you can get that into? All right. I think we're going to take two more Twitter Blitz questions. Okay. George, we all know Corsair makes some sweet premium stuff, so would you consider doing graphics cards?
Oof. A couple years ago, I think it was Donald Trump said something about the airline industry. Like it's a good way to lose a lot of money really, really fast. And I feel the same way about the graphics card business. Like you have to be really, really quick to be on the ball, and it's all controlled kind of by AMD and Nvidia and what their chip allocation is. So whoever they decide to give the chips to is who gets the best cards. And I don't really want to play that game. We knew it enough with kind of really tight stuff with the memory. I'd rather work on the other stuff, especially because EVGA and Asus and those guys are doing a really good job on the graphics card front. I'll just kind of let them have that. I don't really want to fight them on that one. I mean, I'm not saying never, but I'm saying right now I wouldn't do it.
I have, this is not a Twitter Blitz question, but I would love to see, there's a particular market that I want Corsair in that maybe I don't want to give away anything, but ping me or something. I'll reach out to you separately because I think it would be awesome, because I think there's still at least one category within the sort of the finished PC ecosystem Corsair's not in yet that you could really contribute to. And guys, I'd love to see your Twitter comments, or I'd love to see your thoughts in the Twitch chat. Figure out what you think I'm talking about. All right, so last one for George. This is for George. I have a 350D and I wanted to know what's better, positive or negative air pressure with an H100i at the top.
You're not going to see a huge difference, to be quite honestly, with positive and negative. What we found in our testing in the lab, in the controlled environment in our ovens, is that matching in intake and out exhaust rather outtake. What's that? Intake and exhaust matching is the key. So if you get a really close match, you're better off. There's all kinds of stuff online about no, positive pressure's better, but negative pressure's better, and then one of them will provide more dust. We've tested it a bunch of different times, and what we've seen constantly is that if you get them close to matched and your CFM is about the same intake and exhaust, you get the best performance. The problem is if you put too much exhaust, the hot air you don't have enough air inside to heat up. If you get too much intake, you don't have enough exhausting the hot air. So you have to get close to matched. So the goal is measure your CFM and balance it.
All right. Well, you know what? I think that's pretty much it from our side. Thank you very much for joining us. This was awesome and very educational. And guys, please tweet at Corsair Memory on Twitter, or hit them up on Facebook. Give them a big thanks for allocating some of George's valuable time for us here on the show today. And George, again, thank you personally for taking the time. And if there's anything else you want to say to the viewers, I guess now's the time.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, guys. If you guys have recommendations for new products, then go to our Facebook and tell us what you want us to build. I'm on overclock.net, Hardo forums. I'm occasionally on your forums, Linus, and a couple other people's forums. Sorry, I almost called you an operating system. And then
the first time.
A bunch of other places. So if you see me around and you just want to give me feedback on what you think I'm doing wrong or right, just feel free to.
That's
awesome.
Absolutely awesome. If more companies had guys like George that are accessible to the community, I think the PC enthusiast market would be a better place. Thanks again, man. Take care.
See you later.
All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so guys, that was George from Corsair. So let's just completely overtake their Facebook page and just destroy it with requests for SP series LED fans, as well as 140 millimeter SP fans. Let's see if we can make some magic happen here, guys.
I couldn't hear bloody anything.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, I think
I don't know what's going on
I
with
think
that
the port on the amp must be pretty much dead or something. Because it was also crackling the whole way through.
That's
and it was,
annoying.
Yeah. You could hear him though, so that was good. That's one of the reasons why I didn't chime in too much. 'Cause I'm like, I think I heard something.
I know. Anyway, thank you for taking one for the team there.
No
but
problem.
let's move on into our next topic here. I think that's good.
Man.
Oh, okay.
Should we wait one or should we just go for it right now?
Let's
Are you
you know
ready?
what? Let's do Google's iron grip on Android Titans first. So this is an Ars Technica article, and let's go ahead and fire this up. So I'm going to let you handle most of this one because this is something you feel pretty strongly about.
And you're gonna need a little bit of a cooler before this.
And I gotta prepare myself for the Mantle versus G-Sync rant that's about to happen here.
Okay, so quite a few times over the last few live streams, people have heard me say that I've noticed that Google seems to be tightening down and changing who they are. They seem to be changing their face. They're not the Google that we've dealt with in the past. And there's a few things that's been changing, especially focused on the Android operating system. So the AOSP, the Android open source project, is kind of being abandoned in certain ways. So how that's happening is we've seen stuff like messaging. I'm going to forget some of them now, but like messaging and music and all these different apps that they used to have and are still there get basically abandoned. They're not developing for them anymore, and what they've done is they've
Search
gone and...
is another one.
Search, yeah, AOSP Search. So these things are still around, but they're archaic at this point, and no one is really using them because they've released new versions that they're actually developing for,
Music,
and these new versions
calendar,
are closed.
Keyboard.
If you just keep going through, there's even more, I believe.
Yep.
Camera. Messaging, I brought that one up.
Yep.
And then the next one that's coming up is photos, or I think it's like Google Pictures or something like that. So they're going to be removing that. Well, not really removing. It's still there. The AOSP version is still there, but they're releasing closed versions. So what they're trying to do is force everyone to use their own apps, because if you want to use any of these apps, you have to join I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like the Android Alliance or something like that. And if you're within the Android Alliance, you can't really leave or else it gets messy, and when you're inside of it, you can only manufacture approved devices.
The Open Handset Alliance
There we
is
go,
what it's
yeah.
called. So Acer tried to leave, and they tried to do something else, and that was a big problem.
That was a
for
really big
Google,
problem.
and Google basically threatened to not allow them to produce any any Android devices if they didn't stop doing their own branched version of Android. I mean, even for someone the size of Amazon, maintaining Kindle
is really, really difficult.
It's becoming more and more difficult.
And so you run into problems like with CyanogenMod, where they can't actually include GApps, the Google apps. You have to install Cyanogen and then go install GApps, because they won't allow them to bundle them. Luckily, it's fairly easy in that case. But companies are getting kind of scared, because this is really aggressive. There's a serious walled garden going off with Google.
Oh yeah, this is something we haven't mentioned yet. So you guys should read this article. It's fantastic. It's on Ars Technica. It'll be linked in the doc. But, okay, not only can you not produce for yourself, but if you so someone like Amazon, they can't even get an Android an Open Handset Alliance member to manufacture Kindle Fire for them. They have to get someone who's not a member of the Alliance to do it. So automatically, most of the major OEMs, so that's Foxconn, Asus, Acer, HTC, Lenovo, all these guys are completely off the list, and they have to use much smaller manufacturers who are not members of this secret handshake club that Google is locking into their way of doing things, and then not allowing them to even facilitate anyone else to have a different branching version of Android.
So getting into the club, as he was just saying, is difficult and shady, and a lot of it's behind doors, and it's not entirely known how it happens. And then getting out is kind of the same way. And when you're in there, it's nice because you get access to all the Google apps and everything, but then it's also kind of scary because you don't know what can happen next. So the few people within the closed garden, like Samsung, are trying to develop their own alternate apps, and you might be wondering, why is there all this bloatware on certain, say, Samsung devices?
As much as we complain about Samsung's equivalents, so here we go. There's actually a great graphic showing all the equivalents. Chrome and Internet, Play Store and Samsung apps, Calendar and Calendar, Play Games and Games. Are we seeing a pattern here? Is Samsung hedging their bets?
Basically, Samsung is developing all this stuff that people might not even be using so that they can get user feedback and make sure that it works on all their devices, so that if something drastic goes wrong, they can bail and still be okay and still have all these applications. Because AOSP kind of styled applications have been basically abandoned in terms of development, if they didn't have this stuff ready, if they lost the ability to use Google apps, they would be losing everything that makes the device awesome, because, well, okay, in the usability side, not necessarily performance, but that's brutal, and this is not something that we're used to from, well, it's been going on for a little while now, but it's still not something that you would have as a characteristic for Google in the past. Because how they got to the top was embracing change and embracing user feedback and user contribution, and now that they're up there, they have like 80% market share or something, they're like, nope, walls up, no one can touch our stuff, it's all closed, back off. And it's interesting because we've seen other companies kind of do this, and it doesn't even actually always turn out that great, but if anyone can do it, it's probably going to be Google.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because Google built this OS on the openness of it, and the crusaders that crusaded for, well, hey, you know, we want to support this initiative versus Apple's approach, which is completely walled garden. Are they really that different anymore?
No, not really, to be honest. It's going to be interesting leading into stuff like CyanogenMod, where they're going to become their own full company now. They're going to rename. They're going to be their own OS. Is this type of people going to take the core of Android and just abandon? And then just have all their own new apps like Samsung is preparing to do, but not actually doing? Like, I don't know. It's interesting. Google, I used to love you, man. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, even things like the whole thing that's been going on with Google and Microsoft over the YouTube app. That is another great example of how Google's going beyond not, you know, building an app for a competing platform, but hindering Microsoft from creating a YouTube player for their platform at every turn, and just generally being buttheads about it, to the point where even the Google fans are, for the most part, kind of looking at this going,
I'm a Google fan. I'm still going for Android. My next phone will probably still be Android, like 99% sure. I'm still not happy. That's crazy. I'm not so into it. I'm totally into open source. I'm totally into freeing up development. And that's, you know what, if they started off this way, that would be cool, but they kind of got everyone onto the boat. And then once everyone was on the boat, they locked all the doors and they're like, nope, 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 can't do anything. You're screwed. You're stuck. Which is not cool. And it makes so much more sense now.
Yeah.
Because like you and I remember talking. I don't remember what phone we saw, but someone at the tech fair showed us a phone. I don't remember what phone that was, but we were kind of laughing because that was the first time we had played with a few of the new Samsung apps.
Yeah.
And we were like, why the heck does this crap exist? Like, this is so stupid. Like, there's so much better stuff. And then it makes so much more sense now. Yeah. Samsung probably knew. They're in this walled garden. They know the stuff that's going on. Yeah. They're smart. They're a smart company. They probably saw this coming and they're preparing. And they're probably one of the few fish that Google might have trouble pushing around.
Yeah, I would certainly think so. I mean, if Samsung all of a sudden decided, okay, well, no, we're gonna go Windows Phone, and we're gonna put the same kind of. I mean, Samsung does a lot of R&D.
Yep.
Not only on the hardware side, but also on the software side. And if they suddenly went, look, we're gonna cooperate with Microsoft to the same extent that we've cooperated with you and we've helped build Android. Android was a tiny blip on the radar until Samsung really threw their hat into the ring. And that was when Android took off. There's no denying it. You can't just, well, HTC was doing great. Yeah, in the context of how large the Android market was at the time, HTC was doing great.
Yeah.
In the context of what Android is now, HTC is a drop in a, an ocean. Speaking of which, Lumia sales. So speaking of which, HTC, in spite of the One being fantastic, is seeing a little bit of a decline in market share. So the Robert Downey Jr. campaign doesn't seem to be doing that much. Have we reached the point where, from a hardware perspective, phones have become so commodity that you have to approach them a completely different way? Samsung has just 1,000,000,001 different models, so there's something to buy for every price point, and they have that trusted name. Apple's resorted to colors again. They've never done that with iPhone.
Yeah, but then there's also other problems that are going to be further on in this document with their screen having issues and stuff. Just
we're moving on to that next. We're moving on to that next. Nokia's doing the same thing. It's like, look, we're going to have colors. We're going to have 43 megapixels. Have we just gotten to the point where it's just getting impossible to differentiate in the phone market anymore? They all run basically the same hardware now.
Yeah, the internal hardware is so freaking similar. That's my biggest problem with the phone market, is people will debate different things so much and argue so much, and I'm like, well, these 4 phones are identical, so...
And it's not changing that fast anymore.
No.
I mean, it's not like there's something that has dramatically leapfrogged HTC One in terms of performance. It's still a top-tier phone, but for whatever reason, no one's really talking about it. I still like it. Actually, I'm finally getting an LTE-compatible version. I don't know if I told you that.
Yep.
So I'm super, super stoked on that.
One thing that I've noticed with the phone market is they basically did what, mainly graphics cards and CPUs, but what the computer market did, but instead the computer market did it kind of slowly.
Right.
We're kind of coming on the downturn now. The phone market was like, boop!
Yeah.
They're already done the huge hill that was there so strongly for a few years, and now it's just like, oh yeah, we're just releasing derivatives of the same product, basically. It's interesting.
Okay, so before we move into our next topic, which is going to be G-Sync and Mantle, so my main thoughts on these two technologies, I would like to give you guys a word from our sponsors. So our first sponsor is Squarespace.com. So Squarespace is the easy way to create a beautiful, functional website for your blog, organization, or just for a web store or whatever else. They have a ton of different tools, and they're phenomenally easy to use compared to a lot of other things. In fact, we went from a WordPress site for LinusMediaGroup.com to a Squarespace site, and it has proven itself to be robust, easy to maintain, easy to use, and very, very inexpensive. So it only costs, I can't even remember. I feel bad now, but I think it's like $13 a month or something like that for a basic Squarespace subscription. And if you buy a whole year at a time, they will actually throw in a domain name for you for the first year for free. You can also visit squarespace.com/Linus for a free trial, and you can get 10% off if you use offer code Linus10. So that's for October, for this month. Although I'm sure if you next next month flipped it over and used Linus 11 or whatever, I'm pretty sure that would work too, because we've got an ongoing thing with Squarespace. We're really happy with the way that they support the customers that we've directed to them. We haven't had any complaints about them, which is a solid indicator for us, and we use the service ourselves. We've even tried stress testing it, like sending everyone watching the live stream to linusmediagroup.com to see if that takes it down. And while we've taken down manufacturer websites and blogs and stuff like that many times, our own site doesn't go down, even if we hit it really, really hard. So it's not perfect for everyone. Like, it's not really great for running a forum, so linustechtips.com is still our own creation. It does have 24/7 tech support, and you can tinker around a fair bit with the CSS and HTML if you do want to customize things. So there you go, sponsor number one. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring the WAN show. And our second sponsor, Hotspot Shield. So bit.ly/hsshare. These guys, we actually did have one complaint on the forum, but I was super impressed because what they did is they actually sent a representative over. They had a post on that thread within, I think it was about a day.
It was pretty quick.
It was pretty quick, with a phone number and an email address. And okay, I think I got the phone number to give to the guy in case he needed it, and then he didn't end up needing it. But they got an email address to someone they could email directly, a person, not like customer service, at hotspotshield.com, and the thing got taken care of, and I was really impressed by that. And they've committed to me that they're going to make sure that our peeps get supported, so that's really cool. So Hotspot Shield is a VPN solution. It works on your desktop, your laptop, your phone, whatever platform you might want to use. And what VPNs do is a number of things. So number one is they make your privacy a little bit easier to maintain online by obscuring your IP address. Your IP address can be used to find out all kinds of cool stuff about you, including your location to within about a city block in many cases. So that's one thing it does. Number two is it allows you to circumvent geographical restrictions. So if you want American Netflix and you happen to live in India, then a VPN is a fantastic way to do that, because it will show Netflix a US IP, but you will actually be behind that IP getting the data just passed through to you. It does slow down your connection because there is a pass-through, but between those two features, if you're not already sold, the last one is, of course, the ability to get past things like firewalls or blackouts in particular regions, so you can access content and sites that are otherwise not available in your area. So that's another really good thing about it as well. So again, bit.ly/hsshare, and you can get 20% off Elite prices using the code Linus. So, and there's a free trial of Elite as well. I should have mentioned that too. All right.
Just before we jump into the new topic.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're not ready for me to just basically go off the wall about this for a while?
Very soon. This will not take that long. One thing that I want to tell everyone about.
Oh, yeah, right.
Is actually, it's kind of in a beta right now. We actually already have changes that we're going to be pushing to it. We're going to try and do large incremental changes instead of changing it every single day. But what you can do now is, if you go on the forum, scroll all the way down to the bottom and click the Change Theme button, there's now a day theme selection. So what we're going to try and do right now is just kind of touch up the day theme. We have a few different things we want to fix on it, and it reskins the forum to actually look more like a Linus Tech Tips thing than a default thing. We will always have the default theme available, so don't worry about it if you don't like the new theme.
I mean, always is a strong word, but...
Yeah, unless,
we don't plan to remove it.
We're not going to go out of our way to remove it. If something happens and we have to remove it or something like that, sure. But we're not going to go out of our way to remove it. So for now, if you want to try the more black, gray, and orange styled theme, which honestly looks a lot more Linus Tech Tipsy to me, you can go ahead and try that out. Like I said, there's going to be patches. So a few minor things will change. Not really the color schemes or anything like that, but certain icons, like the forum red icons, which are still default, and stuff like that, that'll change. So yeah.
All right, guys, so here we go. This link is actually from linustechtips.com, and there's a thread on the forum called AMD's Mantle versus G-Sync. I typed up a wall of text, which you can see over there, about the pros and cons that I feel exist for both of them. So let's start with Project Mantle. I don't think they actually call it Project Mantle. I don't care. I'm calling it Project Mantle because, in my mind, Mantle is a project. It's not done. We haven't seen it yet. That's the issue with Mantle. There's a whole lot of fanboy jibber-jabber going back and forth about how great Mantle's going to be, how irrelevant it's going to be, and the truth of the matter is, nobody knows. I was talking to Dice's technical development, whatever his title is. Big deal.
Big deal.
Okay, big deal on Frostbite Engine. I said, what's performance going to be like with Mantle versus not Mantle? And he says, we're not sure yet.
Doesn't know.
I mean, it's October. The patch is coming in December. That should give you guys some idea how we don't know yet. Now, the theory is it's going to be awesome. I personally think we're going to see dramatic, huge performance improvements. I would be very surprised if we don't see performance improvements deep into the double digits, just from looking at some of the ways that it is going to remove existing bottlenecks. But a really good point, again, that was made to me was, well, a lot of the time you remove one bottleneck and find another one.
Yep.
You remove this bottleneck only to discover that there was another slightly bigger bottleneck, like just somewhere else, and then you got to go and fix that too. So we might not even see, even if we see small improvements with Mantle, we might not even see huge improvements until other tweaks are made. The other thing is support. Until AMD does their developer conference, which is coming in November, we know nothing about what's even going to support Mantle. I don't think even Nvidia knows much about which projects are going to, which upcoming games are going to support Mantle. AMD kept this thing pretty well under wraps.
We know Battlefield 4, and a lot of people can make assumptions that probably Star Citizen will.
And if Star Citizen does, then maybe CryEngine.
Yeah, there's a few things.
But this is all speculation at this point. We don't know. So that's what I have to say about Mantle. Would I be making a buying decision? Would I be dropping money on something on the basis of Mantle? The answer is no. I think a good point you made was about indie devs. Indie's huge right now.
Yeah, massive. Absolutely
like
massive.
Temple of Doom huge. And so if we don't... I mean, it does add a significant amount of development time to your game to implement something like Mantle. So unless we see something like... what was your scenario?
I did a little bit more research on it. I don't think it's going to be possible.
Okay.
I don't know. But if they have some way that can help people translate code into Mantle or something like that, that would make a lot of sense. But it's not easy.
That was for which engine, was it?
My theory, which is not going to work, was based on the Unity engine. For an indie dev, think about this. An indie dev goes in, they have no real backing. It's a bunch of dudes living in the one guy's basement whose mom doesn't mind them staying there while all the other ones want them to get out of their house, and decide to make this awesome game which ends up making them a ton of money, but they don't have a ton of money at the time, and they need to push it out on some platform. They're picking phone, they're trying to pick Windows, they're trying to pick console, they're picking one.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to go with Mantle, because that's slightly less than half of one platform.
And there's a lot of misunderstandings about Mantle. Coding for Mantle is not the same as Xbox One.
No.
There are going to be some similarities. There will be some principles that developers, when they are learning how to code for PS4 and Xbox One and even Wii U to a certain extent, that they will then be able to apply to a Mantle implementation on the PC. But it's not the same thing. It's not like, oh, every platform uses Mantle. No. That's not how it works. Every platform from the next-gen consoles and upcoming PCs and then the last gen of AMD graphics cards uses GCN, which is a particular architecture for AMD's microprocessor. It is not a software way of that hardware interacting with a game engine. So Mantle is PC, but the principles may be applicable from other platforms. That's all they're really saying.
And translating from a system that has Mantle on it to a system that has Mantle on it is supposed to be really easy, but translating from non-Mantle to Mantle is not going to be easy.
All right, so that's what we have to say about that. I'm sitting here, bated breath, waiting for the November Developer Conference, and we are going to be running Battlefield 4 through its paces as soon as that Mantle patch drops. Yep. Trust me, that will happen. We're extremely excited. I mean, one of the things that I have heard already is that even though Battlefield 4 already makes excellent use of multiple CPU cores, we may see even dramatic improvements again.
Heard that as well.
With Mantle. So
we'll have the launch benchmarks for Battlefield 4 because everyone's going to want that.
Yes.
And then, all the Battlefield games we go pretty over the top. So we'll have the launch one and we'll have a future one as well.
But it's all uncertain now. Okay, so moving on to G-Sync. Not everyone. Some people seem to get it. But a lot of people's perception of G-Sync is wrong. I saw a lot of posts in that thread that made me feel like I needed to write this wall of text, this one right here, because the perception of G-Sync is wrong for the most part out there. G-Sync is amazing. It is a game changer. It is not open for debate. Allowing the graphics card to push instructions to the monitor to refresh does not increase latency. It does not work that way. It improves latency. So people saying, oh, well then my monitor refresh rate will be less because it will run at 50 hertz instead of 60 hertz, which it would if my graphics card dips to 50 FPS. Right. But your graphics card was only outputting 50 FPS. So instead of a crappy, tearing, laggy mess, or implementing VSync, which is going to take your frame rate all the way from 60 to 50, or if you're running a 120 hertz panel, it'll take it from 120 down to 60 down to 30, depending on how performance takes a dive. We will be getting a frame update to the screen in as timely a manner as possible, as opposed to getting some of one frame and some of the next one and having tearing and it basically looking horrible. This is huge. It is awesome, and it is not something that there is any conversation to be had about. Now, there are some issues. Number one, hardware support. Kepler only. I recently had to upgrade my graphics card. In fact, my computer's sitting downstairs in the middle of a graphics card upgrade, much to my dismay, because I was running a GTX 590 thinking that was going to last me for an awful long time, given I'm not that demanding anymore. I thought at least until Star Citizen. Anyway, it's only supported by Kepler, so you will need a graphics card upgrade if you're not running GTX 600 series and higher. Number two is monitors. Now, we've already started to see some pricing come through. It looks like ASUS's monitor was projected to be around $399, which for a gaming grade monitor, I guess isn't that bad, although I still don't know how I feel about gaming grade monitors for the most part, because high refresh rate monitors with TN panels, we have an exception. I think we both agree the XL2420 Ti is not a bad monitor. It's not great. Would you buy one?
Personally?
Yeah, just say no. That's fine. I know what you're going to say.
No, but I have suggested it to people.
Okay.
And they are happy with it.
And I wouldn't buy one. But I've suggested it to people, and my recent video about it was a very strong recommendation. If you want a high refresh rate panel, this is the one that we've seen so far that thumbs up. Okay. Right now, with the way that G-Sync is positioned as a gaming technology only, I think those are the only monitors we're going to see it implemented with right off the bat. With that said, and so that's at $400, pricing will come down. The G-Sync hardware unit is not only just for G-Sync, it also replaces the scaler that is built into the monitor. So Nvidia knows a thing or two about scaling and a thing or two about processing images. So they actually went, okay, well look, we'll give you a piece of hardware that does something that you already had to buy hardware to support, and also is compatible with G-Sync. We just want you to pay our licensing fee, which they have claimed is pretty reasonable. So if that's the case, I believe and I hope that we will see monitors that aren't just TN panels and aren't necessarily just high refresh rate monitors. So maybe we'll see 60 hertz 2560 by 1440 monitors, or even 4K monitors or TVs supporting this G-Sync standard, and it will be a new golden age for gaming. They had a 4K TV. It was like an 85-inch TV or something ridiculous like that running at the Nvidia conference, and I kind of looked at it and I went, if I were to take screen grabs of this, great. I wouldn't play a game on this.
No.
It looks terrible. It looks terrible with all the tearing and all the visual artifacts that exist because of that desynchronization between the output FPS and the input and then output refresh rate on the monitor that exists. So, will G-Sync run on AMD is a question I've seen a lot. What Nvidia said during the conference is we haven't precluded, so that is to say they haven't decided not to allow AMD or Intel to license the technology. I hope they do, and I hope AMD swallows whatever pride they may have and whatever issues they might have about working with Nvidia, and I hope we see G-Sync on both sides, because take this for what it is. I will not consider gaming without G-Sync once monitor availability becomes widespread.
We need, I think this might have even been in the doc, I need a ProArt level monitor.
Yes, I want a proper monitor.
That would be awesome.
With a gorgeous IPS panel, give me a 10-bit panel. I mean, we're seeing Nvidia hardware on the monitor now. We might even be looking at lower response times, lower input lag. I don't know. This is a guess, but Nvidia cares about low latency in a way that I really feel like the commodity monitor makers do not.
Well, younger me would have gone for that BenQ super fast monitor. But now that I'm not like trying to play competitively on all that kind of stuff, I'm playing more for the experience of games, even if I'm playing multiplayer.
Doesn't color make a difference?
It does. You can totally tell, and like
that PA279Q.
That monitor.
Oh man, we have a video editing build guide coming out, guys. That we used a PA279Q monitor. This is a 10-bit panel, so that's full deep color support with a 12-bit lookup table, and even when you're not running 10-bit. It comes pre-calibrated with delta E of less than 0.5. The colors are basically perfect to the eye.
For people that don't understand, like I went from my really high-end PA panels to that, and they like if I put that beside my PA panel, it would put it to shame.
Just makes it look stupid.
Oh.
Like speaking of which, Edsel says I can have it if I get him a matching 1920 by 1200 monitor for his. Because he'd rather have two monitors that are the same res than have mismatched ones. And I asked him, does it have to be color accurate? He says no. So the BenQ on my desk at home is going on Edsel's workstation.
That's what? Does he realize what he's doing?
Yeah. He was like, no, it doesn't have to be he would rather have two same resolution.
Love how our editor doesn't care if it's color accurate.
And
awesome.
you heard me talking to Brendan. He'd rather have the high-end GeForce card with more CUDA cores than the Quadro, so he wouldn't be able to use a higher than 6-bit panel anyway.
You didn't tell him he could use that panel. You told him he specifically could not.
Well, he already has a PA, and he's not getting that one. It was between me and Edsel.
Which is ridiculous. You should not have that screen, and you know it.
Oh, I'm so stoned.
He's going to open spreadsheets on this screen.
And they will look fantastic.
Ridiculous. He's going to put a Quadro in his computer and use that monitor to open spreadsheets, and it hurts my brain.
Oh, it's going to look so
I told him
good.
it shouldn't go to him.
Should I water cool the Quadro? I bet I could.
No.
It's just a 470.
It's not going to overheat. It does nothing.
But it's
all
loud.
that Quadro's going to do is run your UI.
It's
That's
loud.
it.
It's single slot. It's loud.
Stupid. Your computer turns off when you hit your table anyways.
And I'm going to be doing most of my gaming streaming to Shield anyway.
Oh my god. You're going to put it in your personal rig.
Yeah.
So it's not even going to be used for work at all.
No, not at all.
Sweet. Awesome. Right now, his work computer, if he hits the table, just completely shuts off. But nope, he's going to take this awesome hardware home. Along with your two shields.
I'm a terrible person, aren't I?
Jerk. Jeez. Anyways.
So, speaking of Shield, I mean, FPS... Okay, you know what? Let's talk 290X. I want to hear your thoughts first, and I want to hear overclocked and non-overclocked thoughts.
While we're talking about this, let's get Twitter rolling about 290X.
Yeah.
We can do a Twitter blitz
We
afterwards.
want to hear you guys. Okay, hit them with something. And move over. The spacing's weird. I'll scooch over here. And
what do you want me to... What do you mean hit them with something?
Just get close.
You said hit them with something.
Hit them with a question.
Okay, the 290X, what are your thoughts? What questions do you have for me? I benched it. What questions do you have for Linus? He researched the 80 trillion page document that comes with it. Which I skimmed through, but I think he read it.
And
like
between all the other decks is like
there's a lot of other
actually.
decks. Yeah,
there's a lot.
There's a lot of information about it. What questions do you have for us about it? Because honestly, when I was reading the comments below the video,
of which there are many,
they're like people either straight up muted the video once I came on and then just decided to talk about the charts, which is redonkulous, or like muted the video while Linus was talking because
we both said it.
Like, and there's people just saying stuff in the comments that are completely wrong and clarified in the video by both of us. So I'm sure there's questions out there. So go ahead and ask.
All right, so I'm going to kick this off. I was asked on Hardware Canucks' weekly show, I don't know if you know, I did a guest spot. We recorded it yesterday, to sum up Radeon R9 290X in one word. And I used the word competitive. Do you have a better word?
Not a bad word. No. No, that's a pretty good word.
We've taken some flack for the fact that the 290X loses in our benchmarks at both 1080p and 1440p. Now, let me say this though. 290X is competitive. The kinds of margins of loss and win that we're looking at in our testing are the kinds of things that you would need to run fraps to notice for the most part. There were some exceptions where minimum frame rates were quite a bit lower on 290X, but...
In one game, though.
We might be able to chalk that up to early drivers, because trust me, they're early.
Oh, yeah.
They're very early, and what we saw with Never Settle was AMD has been able to do some serious driver tweaking. I mean, they probably have a significant chunk of their driver team working just on fixing the frame pacing issue right now.
Oh, yeah.
When they're back to having everybody focused on game tweaks, we could be looking at a very different story for 290X. So we aren't down on 290X. I want to be clear about that. This is a return to competition. And look at that pricing.
The pricing's amazing, and even quoted in the video by me, which I don't understand how people didn't hear, I ran it at stock against the 780 in a bunch of the same games, and it won.
But we don't report those numbers.
We report overclocked numbers. That's why they're different.
And for people saying, well, you guys should report non-overclocked, why? There were 104 journalists at the Hawaii event alone, and I know most of them, probably each and every one of them, got a 290X to do a review. Of them, at least 103 of them ran the cards at stock, okay? We run our cards overclocked, so we're doing something that's at least a little bit different, so you can see the different perspective. And for everyone running around saying, oh, well, they're clearly paid off by Nvidia, Nvidia doesn't give us any money. They give us graphics cards. So does AMD. So by that logic, we're paid off by both of them, I guess.
What are you even talking about?
And I even posted this in the thread about how I'm biased. I should see if I can dig that up, because it's a fantastic thread. We were doing game roundups, like game showdowns for months. Actually, we need to get back to doing those, but it's been a bit of
we've got Star Citizen coming out. We've got stuff
Battlefield 4 coming out. Yeah. So it's been a bit of a barren wasteland in terms of games releases for a while. But AMD won almost every one of them, and we took so much flack for running overclocked settings because our AMD cards overclocked really well.
And like, exceptionally well. 7000 series overclocked, incredible. You take all the sliders and put them at the end.
It was a really good overclocker.
And now the same guys are pissed that we're running overclock settings because it doesn't overclock that well. What do you want?
We run overclock settings, for better or for worse. Our 290X wasn't a great overclocker. Our 780X is a decent overclocker, but it's not a golden sample by any stretch. Look, in about 6 weeks, there's going to be non-reference cards. I am already in the queue for an Asus non-reference card. I expect that one with a better power design and a better cooler to kick some serious ass. Because I have also contacted coolants already about getting a 290X water block, as well as an external water cooling unit and some quick disconnects like we discussed. And we are going to take GTX 780 and Radeon 290X. We are going to overclock them to the max, and we are going to remove thermals as an obstacle, because that is the issue with reference 290X cards. The cooler's not great, the chip runs hot, fine. Let's water block them, then we'll see who comes out on top, and there will be no questioning the numbers at that point. I'm very excited to bring you guys those numbers.
And people that were pissed about the current video, the problem is it almost maxes out its temps at stock. So when you overclock it, there's not much room, and the thing that's throttling it is temps. You can't go above 95 degrees, and that would be crazy.
It works the same way as GPU Boost 2.0, where once you reach a threshold for power, temperatures, maximum voltage, or maximum clocks as you have them set, it stops turning up.
It starts throttling back. Sorry.
I
could clock up, and I was clocked up at one point in time.
But it wouldn't even run at that speed.
If I was clocked up above where I ran the current benchmarks, it would throttle down and actually produce worse numbers. That's how the new systems are working, so I had to find a happy medium, which I did, and I reported that in the doc.
It's not about turning the dial as high as it goes, and you know what? It's been like this for a long time. Even CPU overclocking, memory overclocking, when you push it too far, you can see performance degradation. It's not just about clock speed and stability test. Run some benchmarks, make sure you're still getting performance improvements, because it doesn't always happen.
It's about a balance. Yeah.
Yes.
So, we just ranted really quickly. It might be time for Twitter Blitz. Or do you have more to say?
That actually didn't even take that long.
Well, it's not complicated.
It's $100. It's $100 cheaper, and you know what's funny is it's $100 cheaper because AMD knows that's the right positioning for it. Whatever AMD might say about whatever the press release might say, marketing speak, blah 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 blah, with every recent graphics card release, probably for the last couple of years, the pricing has reflected how the manufacturer knows it is stacked up in the market. 780 Ti will be positioned such that price performance, it'll make sense compared to 290X, Titan, and 780. That is how it will be positioned.
What I'm
Crystal
really interested
ball.
in is checking out price per performance ideals with a water blocked 290X.
That's going to be awesome.
Because it's cheaper, and water blocks are expensive,
Yeah,
and
like
plumbing
$100.
is expensive. But if you add that in, it's like
We
you
could
said,
be
like
looking.
$100. So if you already have a water loop, just adding the block will almost equalize it to a 780, and then checking out that performance is going to be freaking interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. So don't worry, guys. We are not done investigating 290X, 780, and for that matter, 780 Ti, because who knows? I have honestly, I don't even know anything yet. Never
don't have
mind
it yet.
NDAs. I haven't even signed an NDA about 780 Ti because I don't know anything. I don't
Maybe
know.
it's pink.
I don't know pricing. I don't know anything for sure. So there's rumors, but we don't know anything. All right. And people talking about the 95-degree thing. You know what? It's funny because there's this misconception. I only buy Intel CPUs because AMD runs hot. I only run AMD CPUs because Intel runs hot. Or the same thing for graphics cards. I run Nvidia because AMD runs hot. I run AMD because Nvidia runs hot. They have all had times in their history when their chips have run too hot. Okay? So AMD, Thoroughbred, Palomino, those were hot running chips. Okay? Intel, Prescott. Man, I saw the backs of motherboards that were brown, like dark brown, from the power being drawn by the VRMs. Okay, Prescott ran hot. All right, Nvidia, Fermi. That wasn't that long ago. GTX 480 was a furnace. That thing made your room hot. It was a space heater. It ran at like 100 degrees.
Seriously, I had to have a fan in my window.
Okay, AMD. Let's go back. We don't even have to go back very far for them at all. 2900 XT comes to mind. Man, did that thing ever run hot. That thing was brutal, and that cooler was loud. And then, now, okay, R9 290X runs a little bit hot, but it's happened at times. And go back, and a lot of those products are still working, for better or for worse, with the exception of probably Prescott. Man, that thing...
Probably burnt out.
Well, it was the boards that were the problem.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
drawing too much power and running really hot, and
Yeah.
the motherboard makers weren't ready for it. Whereas the graphics card guys are used to this. Graphics cards have been running at 100 degrees for years. 8800 GT with that single slot cooler, they all ran at 100 degrees.
I actually got a lot of comments directly through my live stream last night, through my Twitter, and comments on that video of people being like, Slick, how scared were you of the 95-degree temperatures? Because there's more than one article being like, oh my god, this thing's 95 degrees. I won't even overclock it at all. And it's like, dude, it's fine. Like, we've seen this before.
It's designed to run that way. It turns the fan down until it's running at 95 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay? It's intentional. It's by design. If you don't like it, turn it down. Turn it to 80 degrees. Turn it to 60 degrees.
And you
whatever
might, because that fan's insane.
And you might, because... Okay, but turn it down to whatever temperature you want. That's the way it works.
And
All
in,
right.
in saying that, I said that before and I got flack for it. Like I said, the fan, it's really loud. It's a really loud
It is
cooler.
loud. Everyone says it's loud. What do you want us to say?
Because it's loud. Just get an aftermarket one. Like, don't worry about it.
Wait for the non-reference card is, I think, probably the best advice I can give for 290X right now. Unless you really need one immediately, in which case we'll sell you ours.
Because we're going to get some aftermarket ones.
We're waiting for that aftermarket one.
Yeah.
Unless you want a water cool, then you might need a reference card. All right.
Yeah. So, Twitter Blitz?
Yeah. Let's do that Twitter Blitz. I had completely forgotten about that. We want to hear your guys' thoughts on 290X now that I've gone on a tirade for the last however long.
We might have cleared up everything.
Yeah, we might have... you know what? Feel free to... Alienware just followed me.
Sweet.
Feel free to let us know if what we just said completely cleared up any of your misconceptions about 290X. All right. So do you think personally that Ti will be greater than Titan in gaming? I think it's possible. There's some rumored specs that it's going to have all of the CUDA cores enabled, in which case it might. I've had 4 SSDs in 6 months as boot drives all die. How can that happen? Heat can be an issue depending on the SSDs you're buying. They might not be the highest quality SSDs. NAND flash varies dramatically in quality from the best of the best that guys like Intel, who actually manufacture the stuff, keep for themselves and don't even sell to anybody. Samsung does the same bloody thing. And all the way down to what you find in commodity flash drives for $3. And you can bet that if they put that stuff in an SSD, it wouldn't last very long. Brands that I'd recommend, Intel, Samsung, Crucial.
People that manufacture their own stuff.
Basically, guys that manufacture their own stuff. SanDisk is another good one. There's one really important one I know that I'm missing. Plexter's another
Yeah.
really good one. All right. What does it feel like to have a Boeing for a GPU? I don't know. I haven't used it yet, unfortunately. When you test a water-cooled 290X, will you water-cool the 780? We'll try with and without, I think. That'll be an interesting scenario. $400 for ASUS G-Sync 1080p or $150 1080p and $250 additional GPU budget. G-Sync seems great, but the price premium seems too high. Good point. It would be the kind of thing where if you're already buying a decent monitor anyway, I would consider the G-Sync option. With that said, not having tearing, I mean, they showed off G-Sync, not with Titans, with 760s. That was the point they were trying to make, is that, look, this makes a mid-range graphics card really able to run higher graphical settings and still feel smooth and still be smooth. All right. There you go. Alienware follows me. So we can all see that. Yay! Hi, Alienware, if you guys are watching. Your computers are kind of plastic. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're plastic.
But then you always say that.
I don't say that. It's implied.
No, you have.
Okay, I've said I don't really like plastic. Okay, Alienware, if you're listening, I'd love to see some more premium, like, metal chassis. I know it's hard to do with, like, commodity gaming machines, but...
And they do all their, like, crazy mechanical movie stuff. But
yeah, they do have some cool stuff in their chassis, though. Have you looked at a recent Alienware high-end one? Like, some of the lighting effects and some of the toolless stuff that they have in there?
They've always done pretty cool things. I just haven't really liked the quality of the materials.
The last time I tried to buy something from them was when they did the Star Wars limited edition painted, or vinyl-wrapped case. Do you remember that thing?
Yeah.
I was like, please, I will pay you double whatever it costs. Please. They're like, nope, sorry, you gotta buy a system. I'm like, fine. Fine. Seeing how close 780 and Titan are in benchmarks, what do you think will happen to Titan when 780 comes out? Good call. I think Titan was already irrelevant.
Yeah, for gaming. Because the driver optimizations for 780 have been so much better for gaming.
Well, I guess no, it's the same GPU. I mean, I would imagine they're getting the same performance improvements.
Made differences more on the 780.
Okay,
and
you're the one who does the benchmarking, so...
In some interesting situations, we haven't been testing Titan that much because we noticed that no one really cared. But I've looked at other people's benchmarks, and I've noticed that in certain weird games, 780 will actually come above.
Right.
Which is weird, but I have to assume it has something to do with driver optimization.
Titan is what it is. It's for CUDA programmers, hardcore video editors who want as many CUDA cores as they can possibly stuff in a machine. Titan has its place, but it's for people who don't have a budget. 780 makes a ton more sense unless you're gaming at 4K and you really need that extra frame buffer. All right, any interesting Android apps you'd recommend? Also, Moto X review is happening, correct? The Moto X review is actually mostly shot. We're going to finish it up on Monday. I really liked the Moto X. A lot, actually. I'm not going to switch to it, though. So I guess I'm still using the HTC One moving forward. HTC offered to send me, finally, because they said they were going to do this right when I got the sample, an LTE-compatible one for my network. And I was like, wait, hold on. Don't send it. Because I'm using the Moto X right now, and I really like it, and I might switch. So I don't want you guys to, like, send me some phone that I then don't even use, because part of the advantage for HTC is I do genuinely like the phone. I can use whatever phone I want. Really, I can. I'm even eligible for an upgrade, so if I even wanted an Apple phone now, I could even go that route. I use it because I love it, and I think they've seen sales that have directly come from me. So the last thing I want is for them to invest in sending me a new phone and for me to not even use it. That's just stupid. So that was, but now I've decided, and I definitely am going to stick with the one.
Good guy, Linus.
Well, I don't want to take stuff from people for no
cool.
reason. That's just stupid.
That's definitely cool.
There's that question again. Oh, Android apps. Check out Apollo Music Player.
Apollo Music Player is really good.
Better quality. It's just better. It actually works.
I like Go SMS Pro a lot. That's probably my favorite one.
Everyone is pissed because they were expecting it to beat the Titan by like 20 FPS, but it doesn't. Well, you know what? How could it have? It has a smaller die area. It's built on the same process technology. I mean, some of the stuff AMD's done here is miraculous. They've got a 512-bit memory interface that actually, if I recall correctly, takes up... oh, crap, I can't remember. But the actual die area that they're using for the memory interface, the efficiency of it has been improved by something stupid like 40%. Like, it's amazing how much more memory bandwidth they've got in this card, and it really is built for future gaming at 4K resolutions. If you were to buy a future-proof card today, Not a bad bet.
And like the idea that you came
G-Sync
up,
aside.
the singular word competitive idea that you brought up before actually comes back again, because that stock, it's ridiculous. Like if you compare price performance, it's like, what?
Price to performance, that bar graph looks real good in 290X's favor.
Yeah.
All right, what is the best 26-inch IPS monitor? I'm not aware of any 26-inch monitors. That's kind of a weird size. But check out like the cheapo Korean ones on eBay.
When he's going at that price, yeah.
Yeah,
Cheapo
at that price
Korean
point.
ones.
Is the 780 Ti? We don't know. Stopped watching your GPU reviews because of overclocking. That should be a side note, not the main bench. That's fine. Then don't watch it unless you're interested in overclocking numbers, or if you want the technology overview, because we combine them now. Now we do the introduction for the product, talking about all the technology, what's new, what's different about it, and then performance numbers were only like 1/4 of the video. So there.
And like that's cool. You can go read or watch the 150 other reviews that are all identical.
That all have stock numbers. So that's fine. We're doing things differently because we want to be a destination for people who do overclock their cards and who do want to know what the overclocking numbers look like.
And yes, there's a little bit of silicon lottery going on.
Of course
we run
there
into
is.
that, but we've said when that's actually been a big thing. We had one card that did not overclock well, and every single time that it was in the results of a video, we said, by the way,
Our
this
7870 is
Exactly.
a dog overclocker.
Yeah, so we say it. We know these things.
All right, you should get Crushers. Those are the ones that I'm going to pick up just for lulz.
Oh god.
Mac Pro entering Apple into the very high-end SFF market. Go. I think not at all. I mean, Mac Pro is a professional appliance. That's what it is. It's not a general purpose PC. They have very clearly positioned it that way. This is a video editing workstation appliance that sits next to a video editing workstation or 3D rendering workstation. It doesn't even come with anything other than Fire GL cards. Like, it's not. I mean, and I don't personally feel like the Mac Pro is a great implementation. It's only got one expansion slot internally. It is PCI Express, and it'll do 1 GB per second reads and writes and whatever else. These are all good things, but it doesn't have the flexibility that we require as a video production outfit. And I don't know. They've lost so much sex appeal with Final Cut over the last few years that I'll be interested to see if they can gain it back.
That's true. It's really interesting.
And they talk a lot about how quiet it is, but that thing is going to be a hairdryer when it's actually under any kind of load. They're only quoting idle numbers. So let's see.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even look into that. That's funny.
What do you expect? You know what? We're kind of getting away from 290. How good will the 290X work as an editor's card? No idea. No idea, man. AMD is not allowing reference coolers till 2014. Well, I heard that we'll at least have cards before then. Any interesting okay, we already saw that. A Direct CU2 and WindForce 290X would be nice. Yeah, I'll reach out to Gigabyte as well.
2014 is like really soon.
Yeah, that's like 2 months from now. How much do you think drivers will improve over time? I don't know. Hard to say because we saw a big improvement last time, but this is still GCN, so it's not a completely new architecture.
I do still actually expect pretty good performance increases, though, to be honest. I just don't know how much.
So, I think we might just have to blow through a few more topics here, and it's already 6:30, and we got to pack up for our meetup tomorrow.
We, totally expected a super short stream and end up being longer than average.
Yeah, so, okay, there's a thing, speaking of my mobile carrier, Bell, they are now beginning to use account data to, they're now beginning to store account data, such as your name, websites you browse, all kinds of stuff, and they're going to be using this to target advertising at you as well as using it to sell, hopefully anonymously, to other companies. And this sort of ties in nicely to this right here. So this is the rally.stopwatchingus.us, and it's a rally against the NSA, and it is, you know what, I actually had a better segue that I meant to do for this. I was going to say, but I don't mind because who cares? And then I was going to wait for Twitch chat to explode and say, well, we care. If you care, get off your ass.
Speaking of getting off your ass, they have an Indiegogo campaign, and this is the first time that I've seen something like this get backed by so many interesting people. If you watch this video, there's a bunch of big names. It's not just a few people that decided to make a like we are change level group, I'm trying to think of the right name for
phone
it.
blocks or some.
There we go. It's not just a random group of people trying to rally behind something. It's like a bunch of big names that could have reputations tarnished, which you don't see that often. It's usually smaller groups, and that makes it really interesting.
So particularly if you're an American, the rally is going to be tomorrow actually in front of Union Station. So if you're in Washington D.C., might not be a bad idea to sign up to attend, or tell some people who are in the area to attend if you can't make it there. This is an important thing, and privacy is eroding at an unbelievable rate, actually.
Insanely fast.
The Bell thing is a change to their terms of service that I wasn't notified about in any meaningful way. It's like hidden away on their website, and there's an opt-out, but I can only opt out of the targeted advertising. I can't even opt out of them collecting the information altogether. So not giving me that kind of freedom is very unsettling.
One thing to add before we move on, if you want to support that campaign on the Indiegogo side, you can pick a few different things. Like you can have your donations go to sending more people there on buses, or more commuter lanes, or you can go towards like materials for signs or whatever. Yeah.
All right, so the 5S and 5C touchscreens are evidently less accurate than the S3. So check this out, guys. So there's a study has found that the 5S and 5C are actually moving backwards in terms of touchscreen accuracy. This is something that is very, very important to me, because I'm one of those people who actually goes for gold and tries to position the cursor in the middle of a typo and tries to correct stuff like that. And I'm on an accurate touchscreen, I'm pretty good. And having an inaccuracy sort of ridden touchscreen is not an appealing thing. So check this out. Here is a heat map chart of where accuracy is within, I believe it's 1 millimeter.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it has to be within 1 millimeter, yeah.
So iPhone 5S is right here on the left. iPhone 5C is here on the left, so they're clearly using some similarities. There are some similarities between them, and here's the Galaxy S3. And I never had any kind of issue with this with my iPhone 4, so it looks like this is a bit of a new thing.
Yeah, and I read in the comments a lot, and a lot of people were talking about how it's not really a thing on the iPhone 4, so it's actually gone backwards. Reading in the comments, people had tried the new one and had their old one, and specifically could tell, as you can see on that graphic right there.
Sorry, let me bring this back.
Sorry. The Q and the P are actually pretty much covered in red, and what that means is they're not accurate to within 1 millimeter. So,
which is important if you're touch typing on your smartphone.
So people noticed that going from the iPhone 4, iPhone 4S to this, that trying to type Q's and P's, they were missing a lot.
Speaking of touch typing on your smartphone, did we do that topic yet?
What?
The ruling that's been upheld?
No.
Oh wow. Okay, we got to do that. All right. Let's launch right into that. This is an article on Daily Tech that you need to go read. Go read it. It was about a week ago, actually, that this was posted. But Apple's patent on touch typing, multi-touch, upheld, will allow a ban on most Android devices. Now, what the article goes on to say is that there is a specific... hold on a second. There is a specificity to the Apple patent that pertains to capacitive touchscreens. So while multi-touch gestures that, for example, don't require the user to draw an exactly horizontal or exactly vertical line, but can instead draw at a diagonal and touch typing on a keyboard, on a touchscreen, while these things existed, they didn't exist on capacitive screens yet, which leads us to this little clip right here. Hopefully you guys have audio.
And we have invented a new technology called multi-touch, which is phenomenal. It works like magic. You don't need a stylus. It's far more accurate than any touch display that's ever been shipped. It ignores unintended touches. It's super smart. You can do multi-finger gestures on it.
So that
and boy,
right
have we patented it.
Is what Mr. Jobs, the late Mr. Jobs, had to say about the technology built into the original iPhone. Boy, did we patent it. And they did. So we could be looking at a situation... Okay, so the article goes on to say, in the unlikely event that this could be overturned, maybe things would be okay. but there's a very good chance, and you can see there's some graphics here, that Android makers might have to look at some other solutions, such as hardware keyboards, going back to that, or figuring out some other way to implement... wow, what a disaster this is.
It's actually kind of ridiculous.
So there are a couple guys that are safe. Number one is Microsoft and Nokia. They're safe because of the way that Apple and Microsoft have worked together on cross-licensing patents in the past. And so Windows Phone, are we looking at a potentially huge ruling for Windows Phone? Who wasn't even involved in the decision,
no.
But they could be one of the biggest beneficiaries of this.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other one that's safe is HTC. So HTC's whole thing with their Here's to Change campaign giveaway that we did on the Linus Tech Tips channel, that's actually still running. We've had a few good video submissions to win an HTC One, but I haven't seen that many yet, so there's still very good chances to win that one. Give us your video entries. The details are on the Linus Tech Tips YouTube channel front page. It's the first video that plays. But HTC's whole thing is, like, we're all about change, we're all about innovation. They own a lot of patents with respect to smartphones and the technology inside them, and they were one of the ones that was locked in legal battles constantly with Apple until a couple of years ago, when both Apple and HTC basically just said, okay, fine. Like, we're done. I think from Apple's perspective, they didn't really see HTC as much of a threat. And from HTC's perspective, they could have gone out of business fighting legal wars with Apple at that point. And they basically went, look, let's just call a 10-year truce. No more patent nonsense between our two companies. So HTC might be one of the only Android handset makers not affected by this ruling. So guys, go read the article. It's fantastic and also terrifying. And if you're, if a lot of the rulings in the past haven't seemed to affect anything, like right here are a few Samsung devices that have already been banned for sale in the US that they never really mattered because they were banned for sale at a time when they weren't really relevant anymore, and Samsung's been pretty good about refreshing their products quickly enough that bans don't seem to really affect them too much.
Yeah.
So don't think it can't happen. Product bans happen just because it hasn't affected the US much. I mean, and we've even seen it in the IT industry. SwiftTech couldn't sell the H220 due to a patent dispute with Asetek. So still available in Canada, so this is a very regional thing, but we might see some shifts, even from guys like Samsung to a Windows OS or... wow. Anyway, big news right there. Elon Musk thinks that hydrogen cars are, to paraphrase, bullshit. So this was an article on The Verge.
I actually found this whole article just absolutely hilarious.
It was awesome. So basically, to applause, he kind of goes, well, look, the ideal fuel cells would have less range and wouldn't be as optimal from a weight to performance perspective as current lithium-ion technology, and you'd be building an entirely new infrastructure when the electrical grid is already there. Like, it's there. The power lines, they're there.
It's like... all of his points are just awesome because it's just like, what are you guys doing?
It's like, yeah, Tesla's going to be a thing. Deal with it. He should just put on sunglasses and just like say that rather than, I mean, it's great that he made, it's great that he had, a number of reasonable arguments about it, but he could have just as easily gone all meme on us and just been like, deal with it. So I guess that's pretty much it. If I was buying a car and Tesla was, or the Model S or some kind of model that they had was a lot cheaper, I really don't think I'd be considering a car that burns hydrocarbons anymore.
If Teslas were affordable?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Well,
I'd be all over that.
I mean, there is the so-called convenience of being able to fill up your car once every however long and just drive it until it's empty. And I think that he can be a little bit idealistic sometimes. It's like, well, it burns hydrocarbons. You know what? A lot of the world burns hydrocarbons to make electricity, man. So calm yourself down for a second here. But, in countries like Canada, where we're predominantly hydropowered, yay! It's fantastic.
And you're definitely right about all of that, but just like also just everything else in a Tesla that's super good. I hope they make like
Yeah, like the safety. Oh,
I hope they make like economy Tesla.
yeah.
That would actually be really cool.
Like Tesla Light or like Tesla GT. Or no, that GT would probably be good. Anyway, I think we're pretty much done here. Guys, thank you very much for tuning into the WAN show. I know it's an extremely long show and we don't really cover that much, but we appreciate you guys tuning in. Do you have any exciting forum news other than the new theme change?
We've got a few things actually. One, there is a build logs of the week this time. We're just having some serious troubles with the dock. So I don't know. Maybe I'll cover that.
After party.
Maybe I'll cover that in the after party. Exactly.
So there's an unofficial after party that sometimes I drop in on and raise my dongers, and but it's on.
And get banned.
It's on Luke's channel, so it's Luke_LAFR, which for whatever reason he thinks it's okay to leverage his position here at Linus Media Group for personal gain and to drive viewership over to his personal channel.
Gain. Do you know what I'm doing with the income from that channel? Personal gain.
I actually don't know. But I heard that it was at least $30 so far.
Once we struggle our way and like climb to the mountain that is $100 of revenue on that Twitch channel, what I'm going to be doing is taking that revenue check and just buying stuff for the crazy giveaways that we do. Speaking of which, tonight we're doing more giveaways.
Like 15 codes or something like that,
We
right?
usually do an insane amount. Fridays are our main day, so we're going to give away a crazy amount. One of which I think is going to be Hearthstone. I've heard rumors from my guys that there's a Hearthstone key in there.
Rumors.
I know there's a Payday 2 key in there. I know there's a bunch of other big keys in there. But my stream aside, the folding team is doing pretty ridiculous, actually. We're currently in 8th position for active folders, and we're currently in 76th position overall for World.
That's unbelievable.
Which is obscene. Like,
that's unbelievable.
Holy crap. Boink is doing well as well. We are currently 10th in Canada and 287th in the world, which is actually quite good. And yeah, like I said, there is going to be a build logs of the week. It'll be in the doc when it's posted on the forum, and it will be in the after party when I...
So to be clear, guys, I'm not jelly. Like, everyone's social media accounts here at Linus Media Group do belong to them. So, you know, Ezel's Twitter is his Twitter. Luke's Twitter is his Twitter. If Luke gets a job at Newegg TV, I won't be happy about it. In fact, your non-compete says that you won't do that.
But... Actually, it says that I can, but I just have to quit here first, which makes sense.
Okay, well,
but I won't.
But, I mean, I like to think we're a pretty tightly knit team here. Yeah. I believe that these guys should be able to do their own things. I'm not that interested in... We've discussed it. I mean, he pushed me really hard to do more game streaming, to do after party, to do all these things. And it's not in the Linus Media Group business model to chase the game streaming thing. So we discussed it. He's got his own game streaming channel. If he's got a social media following there and that works out really well for him and he does whatever he wants to do with that, I think that's fantastic. And I was joking before. There's no weirdness about it.
No, it's fine.
So, if these guys, if you want to follow people at Linus Media Group on Twitter, know that you're interacting with them personally. And that this is not a company initiative that we're doing. So
people have said that my certain tweets have been paid off before, because I seem to recommend the same things a lot.
I don't pay you to
because
tweet.
I use the same things a lot, and I like them. Like, someone's like, "Oh, you must get paid off by Ducky," and I'm like, I recommend Ducky and Philco in the exact same line every single time anyone has ever asked me about a keyboard. What are you saying? Like,
what do you want? I buy this stuff. I recommend it.
I like these keyboards.
That's life.
It's ridiculous.
It's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm going to save this for next week because I haven't tried it yet. So.
Yeah, it's probably...
All right. Peace out, guys. Thank you for watching The WAN Show, and we'll see you again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Bye-bye.